As far as races go at the beginning of the motorsports season, the Daytona 24 is definitely up there. You've got the prestige of a multi-class race at one of the world's greatest ovals, combined with one of the world's greatest combined oval road courses, and a 24-hour time frame. The iRacing Daytona 24 Hours is happening tonight if you are in Australia, but what if you want to get your Daytona fix now? Well, the Majors Series is here to help, running a race 1/10 of the length. This is the international division of the Majors Series, presented on the iRacing Esports Network by ourselves at SimSpeed TV. The 2.4 hours of Daytona. We've got all of the IMSA machinery here. We've got the DP, we got the GTEs, we got the GT3s, we got Sunset, and we've got a hell of a race ahead of us. My name is Reese Gardiner. Joining me, Jay Kennedy. Jay, good to get back into the saddle with the Majors Series. This season is going to be fantastic. What a way to begin it.
Absolutely, Reese. It's going to be a fantastic season. You and I both absolutely loved the Majors last year. It's bigger, better, stronger, faster. It's going to be crazier than ever. New home here on the iRacing Esports Network. New night. Going to be really, really big. And our biggest field that we have seen in the international division. Pretty much maxed out field tonight. It's going to be great racing.
That's exactly right. 44 cars here tonight, spread across all three of the IMSA classes. We've got, I believe, eight Daytona prototypes, about 15 GTEs and 20 GT3s. Am I right?
We've actually got a couple more. So 20 GTEs, 9 DPs now we have, and we have 17 GT3s. So a very, very strong field. 44 cars, 46 cars now in total, as the drivers are just finishing their driver's briefing at the moment. So a really, really big field, one that we're very, very happy with, and a very, very strong field as well. The names that have come out are huge. We've got Cameron Dance, who's come across from racing in the Americas division last season. He's racing in the international division, which will help strengthen the top of the field there. Josh Nowak back again to defend his title. And a few other names that are very, very familiar to not only our normal SimSeed broadcast, but also to the Major Series broadcast from last season as well.
Yep, exactly right. It's a great field here at the moment. We've got the likes of all the Kinetic boys here, John King and the like, Dean Moll as well, who we remember well from last season. Talking of Kinetic, their livery this season is just fantastic. It's a combination of all the elements that make up this team now, as Dean Moll has officially joined up with Kinetic Racing. They've got the crayon pattern that we know very well from Dean Moll's cars last season when his children were his livery designers. That's combined with the Kinetic green and the Swift Racing pink that Josh Nowak and Eric Thorpe and the like are from. Awesome livery for that one. But, I mean, the liveries full stop that you're seeing tonight are just fantastic. Everyone's pulled out all the stops here.
Yeah, 100%. The looks this season are really, really good. The teams have really stepped up once again, and we'll try and get as many looks throughout the race. 144 minutes of racing to have a look at as many cars as we can. Should be really, really cool. But I'm amazed by how many that have turned out. Last season we had the Classic 2.4 to start the season off, and we were pretty happy with, I think, a 25, 28 car field. We've almost doubled that this season. It's fantastic to see how many we've got, as drivers are just getting in the last little bit to practice at the moment. Not long to go. Only 6 minutes before we get the Majors underway for this season.
That's exactly right. We are focusing on Daniel Benefield at the moment on screen in the Daytona prototype class. He currently sits on the top of the timesheets in practice, a 1 minute 37.23, which is quite the time around Daytona International Speedway's road course. I tell you what, one thing that the drivers will have to contend with here for one of the first times is the day-night transition and the temperature changes that come with it. We are starting the race just after sunset and going into the night, so the track is going to be cooling down for the entirety of the session.
Well, one thing that a lot of drivers are actually racing for is some practice for the Daytona 24 Hours, which starts in around about 6 hours or so. So a few drivers that are running the stint around this time of day have jumped in and decided this is the perfect way to practice. Why not simulate it in an actual race condition? Practice the sun in your eyes, practice the cooling track, whether you need to adjust tyre pressures and things like that to compensate And talking to a lot of the drivers, tyre strategy is going to be so huge tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Daytona is one of those circuits that might not seem like it's particularly hard on tyres, but it's got some pretty tight corners in that infield, and the chicane on the back stretch is a very high load section of track, and you've really got to thread the needle through there as well. Just noticing Eric Thorpe testing out a pit stop there, jumping straight in, getting that tyre pit stop practice done and dusted. But yeah, certainly going to be mechanically challenging as well as aerodynamically challenging, particularly between the classes. GTE and GT3, I'm interested to see how they interact on track, because we got to remember the GTEs are the faster class by virtue of having, you know, more downforce, more grip. They got less driver aids than the GT3s as well, but the GT3s, by virtue of producing less downforce, they actually have a higher top speed than the GTEs. So it's going to get a bit awkward first time these classes start lapping each other.
Well, there's a chance they may not even lap each other. The time difference between the fastest in GT3 and the mid-pack in GTE is about the same. Now, also talking about the tyre strategy before we get away from that too much, the other thing too is with the GT3 and the GTEs, they're going to have to short stop at some point. So whether they do 2 shorter stops and change tyres at both, or do 1 long stop, 1 short stop, no tyres. Of course, they don't do fuel and tyres at the same time. So working out what to do in that case is also going to be really interesting too come the end of the race.
It absolutely will be. This isn't like the 24-hour where you split it up into however many stints you want to do and just jump in, do a double stint, change tyres every couple of stints. No, this is, compared to the 24, an out-and-out sprint. So the drivers are going to have to be on their toes. They're going to have to make sure their strategy is absolutely pinpoint. That's going to be key to winning this one.
I think keeping the car out of trouble, of course the drivers do have a spare car available if they do require, but a lot of drivers won't be wanting to use that if they can. We've seen how many of these races in the past we're saving that spare car right until the last minute, or not using it at all, because something happens in that last 10-15 minutes, changes the complexion of the race. So I think we'll see a lot of that tonight. I think we'll see drivers pretty much keeping it clean and try not to use their spare car until they have no choice to use it.
Well, that's exactly right. When it comes to spare cars, you don't want to use it unless you absolutely have to, right? Especially in longer races like this, because if you end up wasting it early on, you get damaged later, then you're stuck with that car for the rest of the race, unless you want to spend an extra couple of minutes in the pits getting repairs done.
Well, I think that was the big thing last season, was Josh Nowak just kept his car out of trouble in so many races. That's how he got so many good results. The races that he was not necessarily having the pace, he just kept the car out of trouble and picked up decent points. And that's what the drivers out there tonight will have to do, is just keep themselves out of trouble and get as many points as they can, whether they've got pace or not. Just make sure they can keep circulating, keep that spare car, not get involved in any other incidents, just race their own race.
Yeah, that's it. Racing your own race, certainly right up there in terms of ingredients for success, I guess you could call them, in endurance racing. If this were, I don't know, only a 45-minute race, you'd probably see drivers being a little more aggressive, but they can't afford to race too hard too early on here at Daytona. Josh Nowak just making the top of the time sheets in practice, going 0.2 faster than Daniel Benefield. He's actually come out with quite a good title defense out of the gate.
He has. Strangely though, he won't start from pole position. As we said before, Cameron Dance joining back over into the international division from the Americas division, even though he's from New Zealand. So he's actually, unbelievably, is going to start this race from pole. And I don't think we've ever seen Cam in any of our broadcast races start a race from pole. So it's going to be all new territory for him, and it's going to be interesting to see how he goes with that. All of the fields are really, really tight in regards to pace. There's only a 10th separating pretty much every class at the top of the field. So we're going to see some really cool racing. Hopefully it's nice and clean. I'm sure the drivers will be trying to keep it as clean as they can.
Yeah, for sure. That's priority number one around here. So practice is in 5 seconds, done and dusted. And then, Jay, we'll be able to go through the grid for this event, and what a stacked grid it is. We'll start off with the Daytona prototypes as the session ticks over into race gridding time up, and this is your grid. Starting from pole in the Daytona prototype class, we got Cameron Dance, Daniel Benefield and Josh Nowak joining him in the top 3. Robert Northway in 4th with Eric Thorpe, James Robbie and Dee Palmer completing the top 7. Rounding out the Daytona prototype field, we got Trevor Mack and Jeremy Morrison.
Then in 10th position outright, first in the GTE field, Corey Ott with Chris Purnell and Alexander Sheridan next. Simon Mazzomo and Stephen Williams on the next row with I can't even speak today, Reese.
Arturo Amro.
I got it right beforehand too, that's the worst bit. And James Forster in on the 8th row outright. Sam Sutton and Michael Sherlock in on the 9th row. 10th row, Gavin Barber and Daniel Stevens. And we go back to Brett Gerardis and Dave Douglas, Matthew Clote and Daryl Hockey also in our GTE field. Still continuing our GTE field, Daniel Aitchison, Roger Clark, Craig Jones, Bradley Matheson, Craig Hawkins and Craig Hopkins. There's a lot of Craigs out there tonight.
Certainly is, but GT3 has got Dwayne Burns in 31st overall, Jason Martin in 2nd as the field pulls away from their standing position on the back stretch. Shane Bowen, Dean Moll, Jake Fox, Mirko Dotanach, and John Ping there with Adam McLeod, Riley Curtis and Will Leslie rounding out the top 40. And finally, we got Jonathan Ben, Gary LaViolette, Matt Hunter, Scott Kukastrula Londe, and Ryan DeCartier McCarthy. 46 machines lining up here, and they've already separated into their classes to take the green flag separately. Good to see.
Yep, always good to see that. The driver's very, very smart in regards to spacing themselves out, giving each other a bit of room to race, especially with how tight and aggressive this braking is to turn 1. There's a lot of runoff, but at the same point, really easy to trip over another driver through turn 1. So fingers crossed we see a really, really clean start to the race. 9 cars in our DP field, 20 cars in GTE, 17 cars in GT3. It's a stacked field. It's a who's who's of Australia and New Zealand sim racing with some internationals thrown in as well. Major series is about to go green.
It certainly is. And the green flag flies. Cameron Dance going for it right off the mark. Very good start from him as the Daytona prototype field goes into turn 1. Looking reasonably clean from all of them there. Bit of side-by-side action, but they're all getting through. The GTE's going into turn 1 now. Corey Ott leads the way. Chris Purnell just behind. Once again, looking very clean between these classes. They don't want to go too hard too early. There's the GT3s. Dwayne Burns leading the way from Jason Martin. And
we've got through clean.
Wonderful to see. That is fantastic. We've got some moves being made. Yes, indeed. We have got some moves made, but for the most part, it has been kept very clean. Daniel Benefield staking his claim for the win of this one. Oh, look at that. He just managed to put that move on at the right time on Cam Dance, but downside to that is he hasn't got a draft to work with now.
And Cam can use that draft here to close back up. Potentially could steal the position away or use it for fuel saving for later on the race. We know how much strategy will play into this race. The top 5 in our DP class have broken away from the rest of the field already. So it looks like the 5 at the front with Eric Thorpe, the 5th car along, being the lead pack, secondary pack there as well, but no change at the front of our field. In GTE, Corey Ott still leading the way, but a little bit of shuffling back in the field, but for the most part it's single file the whole way through. GT3 though, a little bit of fighting and shuffling through this field right now.
Yeah,
with, as we said before, the GT3s and the GTEs pace is very, very similar at the front and back of these fields.
Yeah, certainly is. The front GT3 is actually catching up to the back of the GTE field. I'm noticing Bradley Matheson was in some very awkward positions there. And oh my God, who's that? It's Jason Martin going slowly on the apron. That is not good at all. What's going on with him? Was he just serving a slowdown?
Either that, or I think he might have done that exact thing. I think he might have had an issue. So we've got a car around Dean Mole.
Oh no.
That car looks very, very hurt, very, very injured. He was in second place across the finish line. We'll have to get a replay and work out what's happened. We had one car start from the pits, that being Dave Douglas. Not a bad ploy in some aspects.
Oh no. That is a real shame what happened to Dean Mole. Rear end contact with Bradley Matheson coming into turn 1, and this is the danger that the drivers need to be aware of. Under brakes just gave Dean a little bit of a tap, and round he went. Interclass conflict. Yep,
and that's what we were talking about before, Reece, all about interclass contact at Daytona. Unfortunately, I just brought up some bad blood there, didn't I? The wounds of 2 years ago haven't healed for you, but...
it was last year, mate.
Like, yeah, last year. Well, probably, and 2 years ago as well. Just noticed as well that Josh Nowak has dropped off the lead pack as well. He was 4th. He's now back in 8th. So something's happened to Nowak, whether he's had to serve a slowdown penalty or he's had an issue. But surprising to see our championship winner last time around, Josh Nowak, way back in 8th position. He's 11 seconds off the lead, but the lead is on still in DP.
Certainly is. Cameron Dance giving Daniel Benefield a real run for his money here up at the front. I tell you what, it's at this stage of the race that the drivers will definitely be finding out what the rest of the race is going to pan out like. If Dance can just make sure that he applies that pressure to Benefield consistently, he may be able to wear Daniel out later on and get a move done. Conversely, Benefield, it's up to him to try and keep that steely resolve of his.
We know that Benefield does love being at the front of the field. He feels much more comfortable being the lead car as opposed to hunting down the leader. But we've also seen him make some uncharacteristic mistakes when he is getting a little bit of pressure applied. So if he can pull away from Dance, I think we might see Benefield pull away. But if Dance can stick with him, he will likely cause a mistake, which we do see a little bit out of Benefield. Fingers crossed for him he doesn't, as we see this is the draft advantage. Robert Northway, Eric Thorpe side by side down the back straight.
Yes, indeed, going very closely between these two. The side-by-side into the chicane is not... Oh!
Northway cutting the chicane. Just overcooked it a little.
Yes, indeed. It's quite a tight spot there. It's not really a chicane that you slow down too much for. It's a high-speed S-bend that just slows you down just enough as you come out onto oval 3 and 4, and Northway actually tapping the brakes there in a straight line, so he must have gotten a slowdown of some kind through the chicane there. That has allowed, who is that? That is James Robbie, yes.
Nowak in the pits.
Oh, what?
Nowak is in the pits, so there's some sort of issue for Josh Nowak. No doubt about that, because he dropped so quickly off the pace. Going to go back now to our GTE field, because have a look at this battle here between Alexander Sheridan, Sam Sutton, Chris Purnell. Purnell we saw start on the front row of the grid. He's dropped back to 6th. Sam Sutton, we don't know how good a racer he is, seeing him in the V8 Supercar and many other of our series. Oh, that was close.
Oh, that was very, very close. These guys absolutely fighting tooth and nail, and it's only lap 4 of this race. We've got 2 hours and 18 minutes left, guys. Don't race too hard. Sam Sutton covering the inside of the horseshoe, but Purnell, you can tell, he's got a stake to claim, or a claim to stake.
Whichever one, it doesn't matter. I'm not sure, but it's making me hungry talking about steak.
No.
It's only early and we're already talking about food. Going back to the front, because Cameron Dance is applying pressure. That dropped down to 0.7 of a second a lap ago. Dance has closed back up once again. We were,
Look at that run.
Yeah, he's got a great run. We were talking to Cam earlier. He was saying that the strategy is pretty much going to be the same for all of the DP drivers. They'll all pretty much split the race up into 3 even sections. But if you can save some fuel as the second car back, you're going to get a big advantage come pit stop time.
Indeed you will. That'll be what Cam's banking on. You notice that he wasn't staying in the draft all the way up to turn 1. He was actually pulling out and letting himself slow down. He's trying to preserve that draft as much as he can. For him, at the moment, it's all about staying within those few car lengths of Daniel Benefield. After it's about a second or so behind, that's when the draft comes into play. So as long as you stay within that margin, you're basically good here at Daytona.
Tell you what also is a bit interesting, we're going to go to the leaders in our GTE field. They've actually got a DP mixed in amongst them, just due to the pace difference with some of our drivers in the fields. We've got Deep Palmer around at the horseshoe.
Oh,
so
yeah,
a little
that's
bit of damage
not
to
good.
the front of the Dog Bear car there too.
Yeah, certainly. That's not something that D is going to be too happy with.
We'll see if we
Unsure
can get a
what
replay
happened
as to what
there.
happened to Deep Palmer. I think coming around with a lapped GT3. I think he might have got a hit from behind here.
No, actually.
No,
Oh, that's no good.
that's an awkward hit, that.
Yeah, very awkward. The thing we got to remember about the Daytona prototype is that it doesn't have the best brakes out of the entire field. It's actually got a very I'm not sure how to describe the brakes here. Challenging. A very challenging way of braking as we take a look again at our Daytona prototype leaders. D Palmer obviously thinking that the GT3 was going to leave some room, but the GT3 was running their own line, which they are entitled to do in that situation. Just an awkward coming together of the two classes.
Josh Nowak has made a pit stop, back out there, 23-second stop. I've got a funny feeling that he's started the car with qualifying fuel or a short tank of fuel as opposed to a full race fuel. In saying that, there's a fair bit of damage to the rear of that car. So we'll need to work out what's happened there. We'll try and find out. We'll get flooded with some info throughout the races. We're just seeing on the timing sheets, we've actually seen Sam Sutton get through on Alexander Sheridan. Chris Purnell almost runs into the back of Sheridan there.
Yeah, goodness me, that's a very close battle between those cars. And meanwhile, up at the front of the GTE field, Jeremy Morrison in that Daytona prototype is still mixing it with our GTE leaders. Actually was in front of them coming into turn one, but ended up running side by side with Ott and Mizomo coming up to the first hairpin. So it's getting very awkward for those guys at the front of the GTE field there.
Yeah, it is, and I must say a little bit of a proud moment for us is SimSpeed TV. The guys behind the scenes here at SimSpeed TV, they all running in their own teams, but didn't have many drivers to drive with in this series, so they've all decided to join together for points as SimSpeed Esports. So we've technically got our own team with our comms boys all running together in one team, which is pretty cool to see as well.
Yes, indeed. Please send all accusations of bias in writing to the following address.
Fonty at simspeed.tv.
Yes.
Not me. I cop enough hate mail at the moment. Side by side, Robert Northway and Eric Thorpe. This is not a place you want to go side by side. It just tightens up so much. Good driving from Thorpe and Norway, but I didn't think that was going to end well. Eric Thorpe does get through, though.
Yeah, big damage on the front of both of those cars, too. So they've obviously had their comings together.
Change for the lead in GTE too, because Mizomo is through on Ott. I'm going to say that there's been some issues with that.
the DP.
The DP. We're going to get a CPR replay and see if we can pick up what's happened, but I think the DP may have made a little bit of contact with Ott. We'll find out in just a moment with the replay coming up on screen now.
Yes, indeed. So here we go. Jeremy Morrison going around the outside of Ott into turn one.
There's the contact.
Just got on the brakes a bit earlier than he would have thought, and obviously Mizomo waiting to slip through.
Morrison's dropped back to the 7th in line in that group now, so he's dropped a fair way back.
Ott spun, coming onto the oval.
No.
Unfortunately, just lost the rear end there. That is a real shame for Corey Ott, our pole sitter in GTE. He's gotten going again without any big damage. But goodness me, that is going to hurt, and the frustration will probably be mounting.
Yeah, 100%. He'll be very, very upset with how that's played out. Probably just a little lapse in concentration as he tries to get back into rhythm after that little incident. As we're going to go back to Thorpe and Northway, because guess what? They're changing positions again.
Beautiful.
Up the inside comes Eric Thorpe. Northway around the outside, and just in the background too, Trevor Mack through on James Robbie. So the DP field despite it being the smallest of our fields, we've got another car around. That's Michael Sherlock. Smallest of our field is providing most of the passes at the moment. The rest of the field are just sort of lapping around together at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. The Daytona prototype, you know, with the highest speed and the most downforce out of all the cars in the field, definitely one of those cars that you would think lends itself to tight and hard racing, because it's so easy to think, I'm just going to lob it up the inside here and the car will take care of the rest. Not always the case in the Daytona prototype, but you can have a good, fun race here, as those guys are definitely proving at the moment.
It's an interesting car to drive too. When you drive it at 90%, it is a very, very fun car to drive, but driving it at 100% is nowhere near as easy as you think. You just see Daniel Aitchison having a little bit of a moment in turn one. He's lost a little bit of momentum. Continuing on though, which is good to see.
Very close to hitting the pit wall there, which is lucky, but good thing he's managed to keep going there.
Dance is just applying enough pressure to Benefield. Still no moves happening, but it's great to see the pressure just being applied. Benefield hasn't cracked, which is great. We love seeing these guys fight. As you're just seeing too, Eric Thorpe and Robert Northway, guess what they're doing? Changing position again.
Oh, what a surprise. Scintillating action here. But you can see those, the way that they're turning into turn one. That first turn at the Daytona road course is one of the most difficult turns to get right in all of racing, in my opinion.
Agreed.
It's got a weird tightening in the middle of the corner. There's no correct line through it. And
there's no correct braking point either. You either feel like you broke too early or too late. There's no right position. I always feel anyway. And
at the end of it all, you come out with exactly the same delta as you did on every other lap. Yep. So it doesn't really matter. But you can see the Daytona prototypes lurching their way into that corner. Of course, if you think about the history of these cars, the Daytona prototype, in the spec that you're seeing it at the moment, was circa a few years ago when Grand Am and the American Le Mans series merged to form the current IMSA Sports Car series. And these cars were Daytona prototypes from the Grand Am series, which were given more downforce and a bit more power to compete with the ALMS's LMP2 cars. So they're a weird sort of hybrid between low downforce, almost GP-like prototypes and the European-style prototypes you see elsewhere.
Prototype is the perfect word for them too, because they're not really anything else but just a bit of everything. So a prototype is the perfect word for the DP in this class and in these races. We're just watching teammates battle here in our GTE field, Middle Finger Racing guys. Great to see them back out on track again this season. We saw them do a great job last season. One of the best represented teams out in the field last season. Great to see them back out again in Middle Finger Racing. We love seeing them out on track.
Yeah, certainly, and they're running pretty good as well. Eric Thorpe, I've just noticed, has gone into the pits, so that's going to be one of our earliest scheduled pit stops, I believe.
I think it might be for damage.
No, it's repairs. It would be repairs, definitely. He's got a fresh car now.
Yeah, we saw he and Northway have a little bit of a coming together a couple of times, a little bit of pushing and shoving. We're just watching battle for second and third. I can't believe that Simon Mazzomo's leading this class, but second and third is very, very tight. He won't mind us saying that, because he'll actually be laughing to himself in his head at the moment that he's leading.
Yes, of course, and he's got Mr. Thorpe to contend with at the moment. You'll be able to see just how difficult it is to race between classes here. You see Mazzomo having to lift through the kink to allow Eric Thorpe through, because neither of them have a particular advantage in this section of the circuit. It's only really on the straights that the Daytona prototype has an easy time of getting by the GTs, but Mazzomo's managed to hold on. Sutton is not far behind, facing pressure from Amro. In fact, that is a chain of 4 cars from second back to 5th.
Car around Jeremy Morrison. That was the DP that we saw in the mid-pack involved around the GTE cars. He's got a fair bit of front-end damage. We'll see if we can pick up what's happened and whether any other cars have been involved. Also see Noah come back through this GTE field as well after his unscheduled stop. But a CPR kart parts replay on screen now.
Yes, indeed, and he has lost it by himself there under brakes. Just a bit of oversteer through the middle of the corner.
Oh.
He's stopped right in the middle of the racetrack. Gotten some damage from Corey Ott passing through, and Ott really had nowhere to go there. That was an incredibly awkward spot for that car to stop.
And I'll tell you who else was really lucky was John King. He's also come in and made an unscheduled stop. But he almost ran straight into the side of Jeremy Morrison's car as he makes his way back through the field with his unscheduled stop. He's just about to be lapped right now with Corey Ott closing in on James Foster.
Oh, that's close between those two there. Of course, Corey Ott on a bit of a redemption drive here. He had his issues before. He is the pole sitter. He wants to be able to make his way back up, trying that very wide line into the first horseshoe. It's a very interesting bit of racetrack there because the default racing line encourages you to take that tight entry into the corner and avoid the pit exit, but a lot of guys go all the way over to the left. Ott obviously making it work for him, and this battle very tight between himself and Mr. Foster. Might we see a draft move down the straight?
I got a feeling we will. I think Ott looks a little bit stronger in regards to outright pace as we look back. Love this shot out the back of these Porsches. They look so cool. You can see the heat haze as well. It's a great shot. You can see the draft will start to take effect right now. Get it into top gear and away we go. It's not going to be quite close enough though.
Yeah, he's going to have to just brush the brakes, stay close behind through the bus stop. Have a look at the exit that Ott's gotten. My God, that's fantastic. And Foster just leaving him enough room on the inside to get through. Great stuff there by Ott, but
it's not over.
Unfortunately, yeah, not over at all because Foster has got a bit of extra straight line speed. Remember, Ott's carrying a bit of damage. So his B-trap speed is going to suffer quite a bit. Foster just breezes by before the start-finish line. Had no trouble at all.
And Ott took that whole lap to set up that move through the bus stop chicane and did it for nothing. He's going to have to do it all over again. And what that also does is these guys will be losing time to the driver ahead being Alex Sheridan, nearly 8 seconds up the road. So it's going to be a tough ask for these guys to come back. Talking about up the road, have a look at this. This is for the lead in GTE now. Simon Mazzomo has company. Got it out to nearly 1.5 seconds, but that the car of Eric Thorpe catching him out at the wrong spot, lost a little bit of momentum, and then that last lap by was 6/10 slower. Here we go. It's on for the lead in GTE.
It certainly is, but Mazzomo's gotten a very good exit there out onto the oval. A little bit of oversteer, but he managed to get the traction down very nicely. Sutton just not able to put the foot down quite as cleanly. However, oh no.
Jonathan Benn around at turn 1 and a fair bit of damage to the rear of that car. We'll quickly get a CPR replay. There is nothing happening at that battle at the front of GTE at the moment. Was Jonathan Benn helped? Jonathan, one of our regulars last season. Great to see him out on track. He's done that one all on his own. And as we said before, you feel like the braking spot, no matter where you do it, is wrong. It's definitely the wrong.
Sutton in the draft. Big major move, sorry to interrupt you, Jay. He has taken the lead of GTE right there. Big move coming out of the chicane on the back stretch.
Oh,
and Mazzomo! Oh, goodness me! Just losing it a bit under brakes. Well recovered, well held. There's a car spinning in the background.
Yep, there is Chris Purnell. And Nowak almost got caught out there too, in that he would have been so nervous seeing Mazzomo twitch like that. And also Dancer's had an issue on that last lap as well. Have a look at the last lap time. 46.
Oh, he's carrying damage.
Yes, he's 6 seconds off the pace last lap. He's now 6.6 seconds behind, so we've missed an incident there for Cameron Dance in the 27 car for TTL Esports.
I'm rewinding at the moment, Jay. Oh, it happened at the second horseshoe on the last lap, Jay. That's going to deserve a replay there. Just coming together. In fact, I think Benefield was involved in it as well. Goodness
yes,
me.
he was. Benefield had a big moment beforehand. Here we go. CPR replay finally up on screen. So you see Benefield loses it. So it's as they're coming around to lap the GTE cars for the first time, or or the leaders in GT, and of course they're wanting to battle themselves, so they're not wanting to give up too much speed to these leaders. But it's always going to happen when you've got lead battles so tight in such a competitive field. You're always going to see someone lose out. Benefield, big moment as he tries to avoid contact, and then Dance just missed his braking point altogether. And also involved there is the 815 car of Riley Curtis. He got caught out a bit there too.
I think the logic behind what Dance was doing, I don't think he missed his braking point. I think he was intentionally staying to the left because he was anticipating Benefield would spear back across the track.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Curtis was there as well, and Cam, I think in the midst of all of that, couldn't really do much.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think there's too much that either those guys could do. Benefield, as we said before, tends to make a little bit of mistake, or some mistakes when he has a bit of pressure applied, and that was definitely the case in that aspect. So Corey up trying his hardest to get past James Foster. It's a great little battle here for 6th and 7th.
Yes, indeed. Well, you can't help but think Corey Ott is going to be absolutely raging behind that wheel, just thinking, oh my goodness, if only I had the straight line speed, I'd be rid of Mr. Foster here. But unfortunately, he's going to have to do it the hard way. And James Foster, I got to say, he is doing very well holding up to this pressure on the infield.
100%, he's doing a great job just getting the run at the right time, keeping the momentum up at the right time. And Ott is not able to do anything to take that position back away. So we pretty much hit 2 hours to go in this race. As soon as that next hour ticks over, we're going to see the drivers start to amp it up another gear. It's a little bit of a psychological thing that we see when you get into the next phase of the race. You know that you've got under 2 hours to go. Yeah, you definitely do pick it up a gear.
You certainly do. As they exit the chicane here, I think Ott, he held off a bit more than he usually would through the bus stop. He's staying behind so that he can get that draft of momentum coming into turn 1. If he is in front of Foster, by the time they get into turn 1, he might be able to eke out a bit of a gap on the infield.
Yeah, the infield looks where Ott is stronger. As you said, the straight line speed is definitely down for Ott. And I think one thing that he's going to have trouble with is if he actually gets this move done, holding on to it, because Foster looks really strong. I think he'll just be able to come straight on by using the draft. And Chris Purnell, who we saw have that spin before, he's not far away from these guys. These guys are catching Purnell as well. So a few drivers that have had issues early on in this race, which is a little bit surprising how many we've seen in the same breath. We haven't seen any really big incidents involving mass amounts of cars other than the whoopsie with our 2 DP leaders.
Yeah, that's it. It's mostly been drivers coming a cropper of their own mistakes, but taking a look at Riley Curtis on the broadcast right now, Daytona prototype going by, not too much of an issue there, but Curtis facing immense pressure from Shane Bowen there. Bowen is teammates with Dwayne Burns, so those guys have gotten some really good results last season. Definitely want to get more this particular season on board with Shane Bowen. That is an awesome shot there. And I will say, Jay, I really think we should take a look at the leaders in GTE because it's getting pretty intense there.
I think that's an understatement. We've got a lap car involved there. That's the 14 car, Craig Hawkins. But we've got 1, 2, 3 all side by side coming in under brakes into turn 1. This is an awesome sight. Look at all those Ferraris involved. Ferrari looks like it is the car of choice in this one. Of course, the Ford and the Porsche both well represented as well. But this is a cool little battle here for the lead in our GT class, which is our biggest class as well.
Indeed it is. Mazomo coming back a little bit on Sutton over the course of the last lap, and the altercation with that lap car certainly helped him. I'm actually quite impressed that Mazomo has been able to stick with Sutton here. I was sort of half expecting Sutton to drive away from the GTE field once he got the lead, because you know we've known Sam Sutton for quite some time, Jay. We know what he's capable of. He's one of those drivers that once he gets into that rhythm, he's almost unstoppable. But these guys are just hanging on to him here, Mazomo and Amro.
I think they'll probably be quite happy to just stick with him too. You let him use as much 100% throttle as he can and save fuel. You can save maybe 2 or 3 litres of fuel. That could be enough to undercut come pit stop time. So it is a massive advantage if you can save a dash of fuel out there every single lap. As some drivers will be starting to think about the possibility of pitting now to get some track position or potentially undercut later on in the race.
That's it, especially in these GT machines. Stint lengths are round about an hour in length, maybe a bit less. So if they want to try and split the rest of the race into 2 equal stints, this is about the time they'd want to look at starting to pit. Looking at the number 944, Stephen Williams, currently in 11th place in GTE, I believe.
Yep, and he's surrounded by MFR cars. He's got 3 ahead of him and 1 behind him, so he's got a big MFR sandwich. I don't know if you really want a middle finger sandwich, do you?
Oh, if it's slow cooked.
Oh boy. Again, we're talking about food. How's that? It doesn't take much for us to go back to food, does it, Reese?
No, it's summer, it's barbecue
It
season.
is. It's summer for us, of course. In Australia?
Yes. It's a fact that I didn't realise some people didn't know. I ended up getting a comment on one of my YouTube videos a few weeks back talking about when I was talking about the summer heat during the race. An American comes in and goes, "Why is it hot over there? It's winter."
No comment. No comment. We won't.
Yes, indeed.
We've got a few comments though about someone asking, can we get the driver checked in that 969 car and make sure it actually is Simon Mazzomo. Surprisingly, he actually has put in a lot of practice. So I'm not doubting that is Mazzomo in the car. He has been putting in a lot of hours in for this race this weekend.
Yeah, certainly has, which is uncharacteristic of Mazzomo, if you know him. But he's done quite a good job in prep for this race, and I think, if anything, as these guys make their way past a lapped Ford, that is Roderick Clark, definitely goes to show with Mazzomo here, if you put in the time, put in the hours, put in the hard yards, success will come to you.
Yep. 100%. You do have to put in the practice, and that's very, very important. One thing that my team does not ever do, so that's why you're not seeing them out on track this weekend.
Hey. Will they be doing the 24J, or have you guys not decided?
No, they're still... No, actually, I don't believe they are now. They've had 2 of the 3 are having pedal issues, so it looks like we're not doing the 24 this weekend. I was looking forward for the message at 10 minutes before go time, asking if we were going to do the 24. But no, it doesn't look like we're going to, with a few with tech issues, so we'll miss this year, but we'll probably be back, and we might do the Bathurst 12 hour in a couple of weeks' time.
I'm just waiting for them to pull a fast one on you and announce that they're racing 5 minutes before the session goes live.
They probably still will. I've fixed me pedals enough, she'll be right.
Or just one of them tries to Iron Man it, perhaps.
There is every chance of that as well. Corey up the closest he's been coming into the oval here, so will we see him make a move? I don't think he's quite close enough to get it done into the bus stop, but you never know.
Well, he lifted off there, used that little bit of fuel-saving strategy. Once again, he's gotten a really good run out of the bus stop. Excellent momentum there, but I don't think he has much of a chance of getting by. And from this onboard shot, my goodness, day-night is so beautiful, isn't it?
Yep, they've done a fantastic job, of course. It was
I could almost cry. Oh,
here we go.
There we go.
So I think he might be... might not be happy with his straight line speed, knows he's not going to get passed out on track. Mix up the strategy, play, maybe do a stop for fuel only, no tyres, double stint these tyres and try and get some track position. It is a very, very viable possibility that is what he's doing right now. So just notice as well that Mazzomo's back through on Sam Sutton. Oh,
he is too. And that, I believe, happened...
under brakes into turn 1.
Across the start-finish line.
Yep.
Very nice overtaking maneuver there. Once again at the draft at Daytona. So now they switch places. Now Sutton is going to get into fuel-saving mode once again. Mizomo may have been driving to a number there. Maybe he has enough, he'll have enough fuel to get it home with one stop, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it'd be very, very tough based on the track conditions and the weather conditions to do it on one stop, but it may be possible, more in the GT3 than the GTE, I would feel, but I don't think anyone would be able to do it on one stop. It would be highly unlikely. We're just going to have a quick look at our GT3 class. There's not a huge amount happening in there, but there's a lot of cars mixed in amongst this field, if I could actually speak English, with Dane Burns leading the way. It's incorrect number up on screen. It's actually 4 seconds ahead of Mirko Dutenach and Dortonach. You know I'm going to get it wrong. And,
look, I'm probably getting it wrong as well.
That's alright, we don't mind. It's
Full
what we do.
disclosure.
We always get it wrong, we don't mind, and we'll admit it that we're hopeless at names.
SimSpeed, we pronounce names wrong and talk about food.
Yep. With racing on the screen that we don't talk
yes.
about. Jason Martin in third position. You can see how stretched out this GTE field is. I mean, GT3 field is. It's really, really spaced and spread at the moment, as we're just seeing Will Leslie get passed by one of the Kinetic cars. I believe that is Eric Thorpe. And Jake Fox, that's probably one of the closest battles at the front between Will Leslie and Jake Fox, which is still 4 seconds separating those guys. There are a couple of little battles going on back in the field, but pretty much everyone in GT3 is spaced and spread, which is a little surprising.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the days of GT3 being a category where people are constantly trying to keep up and trying to send it, I think that may those days might be semi-over, especially considering the fact that iRacing has moved to GTE cars for their World Championship, and I suppose all the lobbers and the senders have decided to try their hand at that one. So GT3, I think, may have calmed down a little bit, which is not a bad thing.
I agree. I think a lot of the lobbers and senders have gone to the post office and decided to become postmen as opposed to driving GT3 cars.
Yeah.
It's a new leader again in GTE because Sam Sutton through, just using that draft advantage. These two are working really, really well together to break away from the rest of the field, are Sam Sutton and Simon Mizomo.
Yeah, certainly are. That's going to help them later on if they can stay together in the pit stops, because Arturo Amro behind them is just hanging on in the background.
I think he's almost out of the draft, isn't he? He's 1.2 seconds, 1.3 seconds. They can stretch out to 1.5. They will just break away from him. But the last lap by, Amro was the fastest out of this class. He was one of the few drivers in the 1 minute 42 bracket. Actually, Chris Purnell was the fastest in this class, but Amro the second fastest. So got to watch out for Amro. He might still be able to close onto the back of this group, as just noticing the leaders have lapped all but the first 4 in GTE.
And that is quite impressive. That shows you the pace difference between those top two classes. Sam Sutton is on lap 21. Daniel Benefield on his lap 22, just coming up to begin lap 23. So
just getting a replay on screen, Reese. I believe that Daniel Benefield's had a little bit of a moment here, because he did have 10 seconds on Cameron Dance. It is now down to 6. So just seeing Josh Nowak back in the pits once again. So Nowak is not having a good run tonight. Not the championship defence that he would have liked. Not quite sure what's happened to Benefield, but he has definitely lost pace. Because he did have 10 seconds. It is now down to 6.
Well, I'll rewind a bit and have a look.
142 for that lap, so he's lost 6 seconds on. 4 seconds.
It was a spin at turn 1, Jay.
Okay. I didn't rewind far enough in the replay. That's all it was.
Yeah, it was coming together, again, I think, with a GTE car. Oh, nah. Benefield lost it on his own there. He was going to overtake Alexander Sheridan. Just caught the grass on the inside.
There we go. Got the replay of that up on screen now. See Benefield make this mistake. So that's the second spin for Benefield in this race. And so easy to do, just the smallest amount of the wheel on the grass. That was enough to loop him around, as we see Trevor Mack in the pits in our prototype field. So a few cars coming into the pits to try and mix up this strategy, trying to do something different, because the field has lulled a little bit, hasn't it? The racing has lulled. The only battle out on track at the moment is for the lead in GTE.
Yes, indeed. And the last light from the sun is disappearing over the horizon. So we are going to be fully under lights very, very soon. 1 hour, 46 minutes left in this one. And this is the point where the track is just going to continue cooling down non-stop until the end of the race. Have a look at the run that Mazomo has here. This is going to be another change for position. And these guys both know the score. They both know what they've got to do here. It's up to them to work together, try and get a gap on the rest of the field. Once they are no longer under threat, then they can start racing among themselves towards the end.
And I think that's the point that they're at now, because they are now 3.4 seconds ahead of Amro. Another 3.4 seconds back from there is Alexander Sheridan. So they've pretty much broken away from the rest of the field. It is now down to these two cars for this phase of the race anyway, as we hit nearly 1 hour into this race, or nearly 40 minutes into this race, I should say. I can't even count today. Maths is good. My maths good.
Hey, math, nice. No? No response?
I've got nothing.
Daniel Benefield's just about to lap these two guys up the front. So, this is the first time that the Daytona prototype and GTE leaders will be together during this race. Possibly the only time. We shall see with the way the pit stops come round.
Probably we'll see it at least one more time, maybe two, because 40 minutes it's taken for Benefield to get there. Of course, 2 hours and 24-minute race, and they're going to get past it in the 40th minute of racing. So seeing Sheridan's around at the bus stop, and he's hit the wall. That Ferrari does not look healthy.
No, certainly doesn't. So to a CPR Kart Parts replay we go. So what on earth happened to Sheridan here, just coming into the bus stop? Oh, that GT3 was slower than he expected, also with a technical issue.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate ones where you're not 100% sure where that car is, and just looped it around, unfortunately. It looks like he did keep it out of the wall, which originally I thought he might have made contact with the wall. Going to change a position here. With Stephen Williams finally getting past all of the MFR cars. He's now up into 7th position. He's just got ahead of Brett Gerardis and also Daniel Stevens. So he's making his way forward. Is Gerardis? Good to see.
Yes, and Stephen Williams will be crying freedom in that cockpit, I think.
No more fluoro green in front of me.
Yeah, now he's got fluoro green in his mirrors. Hooray! They're making their way now past Shane Bowen in GT3. Shane Bowen quite far down in the GT3 field. He's down actually 4 positions from his start. So, oh no, Brett Gerard's off the track there as Corey goes into the pits.
Again, so our pole sitter in GTE in for his 2nd stop. That's not what he would have wanted at this phase of the race.
No, certainly not. And that's not what Brett Gerard's would have wanted. Unfortunately, things with Shane Bowen getting a little awkward in the horseshoe. Oh,
James Robbie off the circuit there. May have been in contact with and I believe that's Craig Jones. We'll get a replay and try and pick that one up and dissect it. I believe that Robbie and Jones have made contact. Great to see Craig Jones out there on track in this series. Is a driver that we see a lot in the V8 Supercar, not so much in other series. Great to see him out there in other series as well.
Yes, indeed.
Actually, maybe contact from behind was there, and he's just run wide. I think that Eric Thorpe might have given him a little tap there. I'm not going to confirm that.
It seems that way.
Yeah, we'll see. Here we go. This will be a good shot.
Yeah, on board with Eric Thorpe.
Look at the speed difference. Oh. No contact though.
Yeah, so must have just been a fright that James Robbie got with Eric Thorpe.
It would have been frightening, though.
Mirrors.
Would have been frightening to see how quick he closed up.
Yes,
have a look at this on
indeed.
again for the lead in GT. This is so tight. This is going to be interesting to see what happens when these guys come into pit.
Yeah, certainly is. I wonder if they would have to pit at the same time if they want to maintain this, because if they decide to pull a fast one on each other at this first pit stop of theirs, then it's not really going to help either of them. They want to stay together and maintain this pace that they've got, maintain the momentum that they've got until that final pit stop, surely.
Well, the other thing with it too is they've both pretty much been in the lead equal amounts. They've both been the lead car for pretty much the same amount of time, so fuel numbers should be pretty similar between the two. So you wouldn't really think that one would need to pit for longer than the other, or one would need to do an extra lap or a lap less than the other. So we'll probably find out in the next 20 minutes or so what goes on in this battle, as we're seeing Cameron Dance come up to the back of these guys. They're going to go 3 wide under brakes into turn 1. Sutton gets out.
Let him go.
Benefield in the pits. Here we go.
All right, so our Daytona prototype leader right there. And Dance going back through to reclaim the lead of this one, but he will almost certainly not be able to maintain it with the advantage that Benefield had.
Well, the other disadvantage that that Cameron Dance had is that traffic that he had to get through. It's probably the worst spot through the middle of the middle sectors. Josh Nowak just holds on. All 3 classes under brakes together. Mazomo has actually got a little bit of a break here from Sam Sutton, just based on where all of these cars come together.
Nowak, the spanner in the gearbox right there. So Sutton has lost that ground to Mazomo that he would have loved to maintain. Meanwhile, Mazomo has draft from a GT3. He's going to try and get a bit of extra momentum here from Nowak, but as you can see, top speed's very similar between GTE and GT3, and Gary LaViolette there in front. Oh, okay, that is not the line that you want to take, but I suppose, given LaViolette's situation, that was a fairly sensible thing to do.
Yep, just get out of the way, not get involved. Also seeing Daniel Stevens off the circuit, coming back onto the oval. So lost a little bit of ground, a little bit of time, but car looks like it's got through unscathed. I'm going to say just a little bit of a slide around, which we're seeing quite a lot in this race.
We certainly have. Cameron Dance now into the pits to get that thing fixed. Now, talking about Stevens and Gerards and the like, these last few laps for the middle finger cars have not exactly been optimal, have they?
No, they haven't gone 100% to plan. I mean, they've been trying to work together in a pack, but it hasn't gone as easily or as smoothly as they would have liked. As Matthew Clote going to try and go around the outside of Brett Gerardis, but I'm so impressed to see how many of the middle finger guys have come out tonight. It's great to see these guys come out on track. These guys race for a good bit of fun and love just racing, so it's great to see as we're just seeing Cameron Dance come out of the pits. Gap before the pit stops was around about 6 to 7 seconds. Gap after the pit stops, 6.6 seconds.
So
identical pit stop time too.
Yes, indeed. And Dance already running into issues here. Forced wide, unfortunately. He does have a lot of traffic to contend with, so this is giving a free kick to Daniel Benefield. Have a look at Shane Bowen as he goes wide to let Gerards through. Dance is going to try and follow him. And Gerards just leaving a little bit on the table to let Dance through. I think that was pretty sensible driving from all 3 of those guys there. Dance just trying to keep it as patient as possible, and Gerards and Bowen yielding where appropriate.
Have a look at who's closed back again. Sam Sutton got back to a second, separating first and second, and he's already back on the tail again. So that didn't take long at all, and just shows how much draft that there is at this circuit. That lap there was almost Sam Sutton's fastest lap of the race. We're going to see some fast laps come in the next little bit as the track cools as well. So Sutton last lap by 1:41.7. His best is 1:41.72. Only 0.05 of a second off his fastest lap of the race as he closed that gap down astronomically last lap.
Yeah, certainly did. Sutton on a charge as our leaders make their way past Jeremy Morrison.
Again, this is still the only real battle that we've got going on track. Sorry there, sorry, Reese.
It's all good. I'm just looking back at Daniel Benefield making his way past Drew Lalonde. Benefield carrying a bit of damage on his front right.
I got a feeling that was from before the pit stops as well. I think he decided not to jump in his spare car. See, the really bizarre line he's using through the second horseshoe as well. It's really surprising how wide he comes on entry, and may have been a factor as to why he made that mistake earlier, because he would have broke probably at the same point, but just couldn't get the turn in he wanted. As Mazomo and Sutton, I think we're going to see another change of position here. Sutton's closed right in again.
Certainly has. And they are out onto, I believe this is the run up to the last turn. Have a look at that momentum that Sutton has. You get the line right coming out of the bus stop, and that's the advantage that you get. Quite incredible to see. But they continue their dance. It takes two to tango.
It is a very, very good tango that they're putting on too, and what they're doing, they've stretched that gap out between the first two cars and the next group to 7 seconds. They're doing a great job of absolutely breaking the hearts of the rest of the field.
Certainly are. Sutton and Mazomo putting on a bit of a masterclass here in GTE, sorry. I'm Englishing badly today as well, Jay.
Yeah,
I've just had an energy drink.
It is a Saturday. It's our normal day off. It's been a long time since we've done a Saturday broadcast. We don't do a lot of Saturday broadcasts. This year will be a little bit different for us. Saturday's always been our relax, our R&R day. So broadcasting on a Saturday is a very, very different experience for us.
Yeah, it certainly is. I don't think we've done this since we broadcast the Pro Qualifiers early last year.
Yeah, that was the last regular broadcast. Of course, we do the Bathurst 1000 qualifying on a Saturdays. Oh! Sutton! Was that contact between you?
This is awkward. This is very awkward. Good.
Oh, got through. Who was that involved?
Ryan DeCartier-McCarthy in that Audi. That was very unfortunate for those guys. I think Sutton was expecting to be let through there,
I think that was right.
Yeah, McCarthy holding his line.
Which he's entitled to
do that.
Jinx.
He is. Oh.
No, I wouldn't do that to you. It mean I'd have to talk too much.
Yeah, of course. Well, look, I don't think it counts as a jinx, because we've got to take into account the latency delay between our voices.
Yeah, you're right. Although it might, at the broadcast end, it probably come out almost identical. We're going to go back live because that was a very, very messy moment. Wow, we're losing track of this today, aren't we?
Oh, we are. We are.
But we're having fun, and that's always the best bit. If we're having fun, hopefully the fun comes through for you guys watching out there. So just seeing James Foster in the pits, he's come in as the first of our lead group of GTE runners. So taking the pit stop at the 51-minute mark in this race. A little surprised to see him in at this stage. Probably would have thought that they'd run it out as long as they could. Probably another 10 or 12 minutes before we'll see the rest of the runners in GTE in the pits, I would guess.
Yeah, well, obviously Foster has worked something out in his head he believes is the key to success. Exiting his stop at the moment, and he'll make his way back out promptly. But we're riding on board at the moment with Brett Girards as he follows Michael Skurlock. And this is another one of those battles that is a slow burner. We've used that term quite a bit recently, slow burners, SimSpeed TV. What that really means is races and battles that just simmer. They're not out and out action corner after corner. You're just observing, watching, waiting.
Ones that we just keep one eye on for now, because we know that we need to watch this battle in an hour and 20 minutes time, because it will be absolutely heated on, action-packed. We see that in every race we had in the Major Series last year. All 14 rounds we just had those big lulls in the middle where everyone was just playing a big game of chess. They were just making little moves, trying to work out what to do, and then all of a sudden, bang, everyone pounced, and we saw absolute chaos, mayhem, and some of the best racing we've seen. As we're just seeing, we've got our first 2 DNFs in this race. Corey Ott is out, Scott Kukas out as well. So we've got 2 drivers who are out of the race. Our pole sitter, GTE, is out of the race.
And that DNF for Corey Ott happened quite some time ago as well. He's still counted as on lap 25, so that's a real shame for Corey.
Sam Sutton has got past Simon Mazzomo, and it is now to 1.1 seconds. Mazzomo's been caught up a little bit with traffic, where he's been able to get passes. I've just heard a car blowing up, I heard in the background, I'm not sure. Can't see anything on the timing at this stage, so keeping one eye on that. The pit lane is starting to light up with GT3 and GTE cars, so we might see these lead group come in the pits, as we've just seen Josh Nowak go past James Robbie down the front straight. So Nowak on a bit of a redemption drive. He did go a lap down at one point. He's already made 2 pit stops. He's still got to make 2 more. So Nowak really in a world of hurt at the moment, but I'm sure he's got a plan, but definitely had some sort of issue earlier on in the race.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll hear about it from him post-race, solving that little mystery. Our DP leader has just made his way past Chris Purnell. And Purnell actually bouncing off at the rev limiter coming into turn 1. That's pretty significant. Goes to show the kind of draft that that the drivers are dealing with here. And now that it's completely dark out, it doesn't seem like much, but compared to when the sun is setting and when it's gone into nighttime like this, you really do have to recalibrate yourself. Daytona on paper is a simple track, but the way the lighting affects your braking points and your turn-in points, what you use as reference points, it really changes up your driving style as we look at Gavin Barber in the pits.
Yep, Barber in to make a scheduled stop. Yeah, exactly right. It's a track that you think is so simple, but the braking points also change as the track changes or evolves over a race too. So when there's limited grip, you're braking at a slightly earlier spot than later on in the race when the grip's down on the track's cooling down now, which means that you can go a little bit deeper, and it's really, really tough for some drivers that may not have put in a huge amount of practice to try and work out how to position yourself and what to do at this point of the race. It's going to be interesting to see how this final stint goes, as we're nearly at the 1 hour mark and our leaders in GT are coming into the pits together.
Yes, indeed. As expected, Sam Sutton and Simon Mazzomo jumping in. So, question is, will either of these guys have a shorter pit stop? As we see one of the MFR machines pull out just behind them.
See now Chris Purnell has been able to go 1 extra lap, so that could be a big advantage in his favour later on in the race. He now leads the GT class for the first time. At the front of GT3, still Dane Burns out in front. Not a huge amount happening in the GT3 class. A lot of the GT3 drivers are mixing it up in some battle of some form, but they're not with other GTE cars. They're with not with other GT3 cars. They're with backmarket GTEs. So interesting dynamics in these cars. And
Mazzomo's away.
Yeah, so he's got a jump.
Big jump. Sam Sutton's still stationary.
Sutton speeding in pits, possibly.
Oh, that's no good.
Still stop. Mazzomo, 34-second stop. Sutton, now at a minute.
He's revving the engine.
Wow. There he goes.
Wow, he was obviously raring to go, wasn't he? But something was holding him back there.
Was he getting damage fixed and didn't use his spare car? Possibly that's the case. Decided to just use the normal repairs. We'll find out later on.
It didn't look like he needed any damage fixed.
No.
Certainly not with the pace that he had, but now Sutton is definitely on the back foot here.
Yep, dropped all the way back to 7th. He'll be net 4th or 5th by the looks of things, so there's a few other drivers still yet to make their stops. But that is a really long stop for him in comparison to Mazomo, who he's battling with. Interesting that about the same pit stop time as Amro, so both around the 1 minute mark. So possibly tyre stop, no tyres for Mazomo. I think that might be what's going on, but of course track temp very cool, so tyres may last a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain they would. I mean, we have talked about how these cooler temperatures work, and how usually at Daytona 24 you do 2 stints on a set of tyres, so it makes sense that some drivers would forego tyres in the first stop and get a fresh set at their second stop, because really the tyres are just going to keep lasting anyway, aren't they?
Well, the one thing with that though is you've got to do 2.5 stints, so do you do tyres before you do your last little 30-minute stint, or do you do tyres and do 1.5 stints in the second part of the race? It's an interesting way of thinking. We'll keep an eye on how much of a gap there is between Sutton and Mazomo, and how much that gap closes up, with it being around about 30 seconds at the moment. As soon as we get an accurate number, we'll give that to you and work out the pace difference between these two cars.
Josh Nowak has retired as well,
no.
Jay, and it looks to me like it happened. Oh goodness me! It happened somewhere on his lap 33.
Oh, he's just blown up. Car just went kaboom.
Well, that's strange, because his car was actually crabbing a bit as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
he made contact with a GT3 with Matt Hunter.
So only
Hunter
one,
actually making rear-end contact with him there. Sorry, Jay.
I was just going to say there's only one car left in our GTE field who has not made a pit stop. That car is on screen and about to come in the pits right now. Stephen Williams. It's the leader lap, driving for Illusion Motorsports in this series. Great to see a fair few drivers did get picked up in the draft, which happened a couple of weeks ago. So some drivers driving with new teams for this series, and we've seen the draft work really, really interestingly for some drivers, because they end up staying with the team afterwards. We saw the KRF guys pick up a few extra drivers from the draft last season, which was great to see, and we're going to see the same again this season, as we've had a change for the lead. Jason Martin looks like he's done a no tyre stop. Dane Burns has taken tyres. Martin has jumped and got a 10-second advantage.
Now that is quite interesting.
Jason Martin is one of those drivers. He's for the first time in his iRacing career, he's driving with a team. He's done so many years he's been on the iRacing service, mainly doing oval stuff, but for the first time ever he's racing in a team, and it's great to see him out there. It'll be strange not to see him in purple colours, because we've always seen him drive in purple. But Jason Martin now, for the first time ever in a team, driving in this series with Misfit Motorsports, and in his oval racing he's also driving for Mitch Motorsports. Seeing a car around Jeremy Morrison's around at the bus stop, got going again, but that car looks very unhealthy. I mean, Morrison's pace a little bit down anyway, but I'm guessing that damage won't be helping as well.
Yeah, certainly not. Morrison's had a difficult one, he has. Just unable to get the maximum out of that car. And unfortunately, going straight for the pits here is Morrison. So he's going to at least get damage fixed.
Gap between Sutton and Mazomo, 23 seconds. 24 seconds, I should say. Sutton on that last lap did his fastest lap of the race, a 141.5. Compare that to Mazomo, who did a 142.7. 1.2 second advantage in the favour of Sam Sutton last lap by.
Yeah, well, that is proof of the pace advantage that getting tyres gives you. Mazomo obviously leaving that to the later stage of the race.
Oh, Trevor Mack around at turn 1. He's got going again without damage. He just went straight ahead at the first corner. Trevor Mack, one of our regulars that we've seen throughout this series last year. Great to see him back out on track again in the international division of the majors again.
Yep, exactly right. Seen some good performances from him, and good to see him back.
I said when Jason Martin come out of the pits that he had a 10-second advantage. Have a look at how much that's closing and closing quickly. There's a little bit of damage to that rear wing on Jason Martin's car, and I think that's hampering his speed. Any advantage that he got from going no tyres, it's pretty much negated already. I think he might have had an incident.
Yeah, and it was a fairly big one as well. I think you should rewind and have a look at that one, Jay, because, oh dear, it involved Daryl Hockey as well.
There it is on screen right now, and oh, got hit from the front and the rear with Hockey facing the wrong way. CMR team forward. Let's see if we can pick it up. See what happened with Hockey. He just looped it all by himself by the looks of things.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. That's a real shame, though, for Jason Martin. Had absolutely nowhere to go.
And how often do we see that, where drivers have got nowhere to go, and it almost happens in slow motion, doesn't it? You see the impact happening, and before you can react, it's already all over. Just seeing as well, Eric Thorpe stopped out on the circuit at the moment.
Oh dear. That's on the exit of turn 1. I think he's had a bit of a spin. Just managing to get it going again.
Doesn't look like we're going to be able to get a replay of that, but he's lost a spot from that. So tucked him back behind Trevor Mack. Now, so back into 5th position for Eric Thorpe. Sutton to Mazomo. Sutton last lap 42.2. Mazomo 43.1. So another 9 tenths. So we're pretty much... we're pretty close to the halfway point of this race.
Yes, we are. And this is the point where we're going to start seeing Sutton's advantage really come into play as we see him making his way up to the back of James Foster here. Lovely shot from the rear wing of that Ferrari coming down the back straight, and these curbs in the bus stop chicane, they really lull you into a false sense of security. You've got to use them to gain momentum, as Sutton has just demonstrated, but it's very hard to get the line right without getting it off track.
Side by side, still going. Foster holding on. Sutton had to tuck back in behind once again. Couldn't quite get the momentum off, and still not able to get through. Which I'm surprised
so James
about.
Foster, yeah, he's running a very good setup on the oval for that car. Can Sutton do it around the outside?
No way.
Gonna tuck in there. They've got a GT3 to contend with. That's Ducati and McCarthy. Once again. He's just gonna let them both go. Have a look at Sutton all over the back of Foster here. You can tell Sutton has definitely got the better car here in the infield.
Yeah, the infield's where that TTL car has looked really strong throughout this race. But just...
Oh, look out. Look out. Morrison spun in front of them.
Whoa, whoa!
Oh, careful, Jeremy. Goodness me.
We've just seen Dane Burns as well come past Jason Martin with that damage. So that a big advantage that Martin had is now negated. I wouldn't be surprised to see Martin come in and say 15 minutes, give himself say an hour and 4 minutes to go, however much he can do in a full stint, come in and pit and get a fresh car, get some fresh tyres and go again, as Sam Sutton now finally gets the move done up the inside into the bus stop chicane. Still side by side though.
Speed though. Yeah, Foster actually letting go early there. So I think Foster recognising that it was a wasteful battle to continue fighting. Sutton obviously with the pace.
Well, last lap by Sutton did his fastest lap of the race once again. A 1:41.5.
Get faster and faster.
Yeah, doing well. Seeing Daniel Aitchison running off the track at turn 1. He's got it going again, regrouped very, very quickly. So 3 retirements in this race, which is pretty good at the halfway point of a 46 car field at Daytona in a 2.5 hour race, essentially 2.5 hour race. Sutton lost a lot of time though getting past Foster there. Last lap by a 44.0. It's pretty slow for this lap. Obviously getting past is not easy.
Yeah, of course, but I think the GT3 and the Daytona prototype may have had something to do with that.
Definitely, the car spinning in front, you don't know what to do, you have to get out of the way, as Mizomo now has 21 seconds between he and Sam Sutton. Needs to try and hold on for the rest of this race as he's got the dog bear number 3 just ahead of him. Lalonde just ahead.
Yeah, Lalonde's just going to go high here to let him go. Who's that behind them? That's Trevor Mack in the Daytona prototype. So all 3 classes coming together on track. How's this for a photo opportunity?
They've gone from being the slowest to fastest to the fastest to slowest. It's always cool across the line.
Oh, goodness me, Lalonde overshooting just slightly into turn 1, but the cool thing about Daytona's turn 1 is you've got a lot of space to gather it up.
Stephen Williams in the wall, also one of the DPs, the dog bear car of D. Palmer. Let's see if we can get a CPR replay. Watch out for the rejoiners. Cars are going straight ahead at the chicane. Oh, this is dangerous.
Oh, very dangerous. You cannot afford to enter at right angles to the racing line through the bus stop. That's where the cars are at their highest load. You can't make any modifications to your line through there. So, on replay right now, we're going to have a look at what happened here. Palmer just going through on the entrance, but losing it. And, they actually both lost it there.
Yeah, I'm going to say that Stephen Williams locked it up just due to that car spinning in front of him. We'll see if we can get another look at that.
Yeah, I think that would have been the reaction that I would have done as well.
Yeah. Oh, they're spinning. I'll push the brake a little bit harder.
And into the wall.
Yep. He's lost another position as Stephen Williams. So he's dropped from back to 8th. He was in 5th earlier. So unfortunate for Williams, but he still has a spare car potentially. So he might be able to get back into this race next lap around. Lap time difference last lap between Sutton and Mizomo, 1.7 seconds in favour of Sam Sutton. Simon Mizomo 43.5, Sam Sutton of 141.8. Gap now under 20 seconds.
Oh dear.
Another gap that is closing too is Benefield to Dance. It is under 8 seconds for the first time in a long time.
Yes, indeed. Dance actually slower on that last lap, but not by much. Benefield with a 38.6 this time round. Cameron Dance, as he makes his way past Morrison, that's a 38.5. So just chipping away ever so slightly at that gap. We may see our DP leaders come together once again before the end of this race.
They still have at least one more stop to go. Meant that it should be a 2-stop race more than likely for these guys. They may have to do 3 depending on the weather conditions and how cool the temperatures do get. Doesn't look like they're dropping too much anymore. Going to go back to a battle on track, Reese. Have a look at this for an interesting battle pack.
Oh, nice.
There's a photo up for the team there. All 3 nose to tail separated by half a second. Matthew Collode in the 54, the Ford GT, the Ferrari 66, Daniel Stevens and Brett Gerardis not too far behind in the 283. All for Middle Finger Racing as Stevens goes through on Matthew Cloak.
That's awesome stuff there, and you know, these guys just having a good old run together. That's the kind of stuff that you love, especially when you first start sim racing and get started in a team. Just the fact that you're able to run with your teammates and have a bit of fun running together on track. That's part of what sim racing is all about.
Yep, 100%. You and I have both raced in the same team and done these races together, these endurance races together, and that is by far the most enjoyable bit, is when you have a good bit of driving with your friends. I remember a roar before the 24 that we did together, Reese, and our friend that's watching in the chat as well, Sebastian Murray Westberg.
Mm-hmm.
We had a ball. It actually popped up on my Facebook feed 3 years ago that we all ran the roar together. Good fun.
Certainly did. Yeah, as I recall, I raced in the Jetta, and I think Seb did too.
Yeah, and I drove in the Mustang, and I didn't do too good, but had a ball.
Yeah, that was back when it was the roar before the 2.4.
That's right. Back in the day, it's a 1 hour race back then. Now it's a 2.4 hour race, which we had last weekend here on SimSpeed, and also our friends at Race Spot had that one as well. So Sutton, have a look at the gap that Sam Sutton's pulled on James Foster since he's gone past. 4.6 seconds already in only, what, 1.5 laps. Cameron Dance around.
Oh, no. Oh, well, he's managed to get that going once again. Not quite sure what's gone on with Dance. Oh, it's a botched move, unfortunately, on Will Leslie. So, Leslie... Oh, I think Dance was just expecting to be given more room than he was. Yeah, I mean, fair enough to Leslie. He had the right to maintain his line, but he was moving just to the left a little bit.
Well, I think that Leslie might have thought that Dance was going to hold to the inside and he was going to move over and let him through, and Dance went to the outside, and by the time he got his foot on the brake, he didn't know which way to go. Dance he's lost about 6 seconds from that.
Yeah, and that's one thing that you got to consider when you're racing in multi-class. You've got to be able to determine places on the track where a move could be ambiguous. Like in that area, for example, when you've got a fast left-hander going into a slow right-hander, which requires a line change from the right to the left-hand side of the circuit. That's one of the places where you really need to study what other cars are doing. It's one of the places where you really need to make sure that you know what you're going to do in a situation like that, but unfortunately, you can never quite predict what's going to go on, and you see incidents like that happen.
Yeah, and that's just one factor of multi-class racing that you see not only in sim racing, you see in real life racing. It happens. Can't do anything about it. It's just one of those things that will always happen in multi-class racing, and we're watching at the moment the unfortunate pace of Jason Martin as he slowly gets hunted down by the rest of the pack behind. His car is hurting, and hurting bad. He's about 1.4 seconds off the pace from the rest of the field at the moment.
Yes, indeed. There's a real shame there for Jason Martin. He's not had the best of runs.
Well, he did up until he had that incident, didn't he? Yeah,
yeah,
it's going all right.
But since then, it's just not been his race. Mirko Dortonach on screen right now as he gets passed by Daniel Benefield. And Dortonach has had quite a good run, I have to say. He started in 36th overall. He's up to 22nd overall, 3rd in class. So really shows the value of staying out of trouble, as is usually the case.
Have a look at who made it back out on track. Is Josh Nowak. That car looks rather unhealthy, but he did get back out there. I'm going to say he's going to try and get to the magic number to get back, to actually get points from this race. Of course, 9th place points will be much better than a DNF 0 points. So if he can get to the halfway point of the race and get points, very, very crucial considering how long this championship is. Every point will be vital. It's such a huge championship, so many different races, so many different classes of racing. Because our next race in this series in a few weeks' time, we're back here at Daytona, but the absolute polar opposite event. We go from the 2.4 hour in the IMSA cars to my favourite race in the whole calendar year, the Daytona 500.
Oh, there we go. That is going to be an excellent event right there. Daytona, of course, famous more for the 500 than the 24. It'll be a good opportunity for drivers to stretch their oval racing legs.
Well, and Jason Martin will be one of the favourites for that race too, won't he?
Yeah,
straight away, he'll openly say that he won't win at plate tracks. He doesn't like racing plate tracks, but I've raced a lot of oval races with Jason Martin. I know you've raced a few with him as well. He is probably the best oval racer we have in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair thing to say. Martin, he goes for quite a few oval racing series, and he's done a lot of miles as well. And of course, he will try and downplay those remarks, but we're fairly certain we're correct in our assessment of him, I suppose.
He always down talks his ability too, which is one thing that frustrates me with him, because, which at the same point I absolutely love about him. He says, "Oh, I'm no good at road racing. I'm no good at road racing." Just puts it on pole in the major series and has some fantastic pace, which is great to see. But unfortunate for Martin to get involved in that incident. No fault of his own. And Daryl Hockey just had a little spin in front of him. Probably wasn't even that big a spin, but just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But we've got an amazing schedule for this year in the major series. This is the Daytona Daytona 500 next, which is in 3 weeks' time, February 9. 2 weeks' time even. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. 3 weeks' time. Then a month after that, we've got the Sebring 120 minutes in the Camel GT cars. I'm looking forward to that one. I know you're looking forward to that too. We love the classic 2.4 we had last year in those cars here at Daytona. We've got the Short Track Nationals, the Super Late model at Bristol. Nürburgring 2.4 in the Porsche 911, the Kia, and the MX-5. I know you'll be looking forward to that one as well. Two of your favourite cars being the Kia, yours and mine, one of our favourite cars. The Indy 500, of course, which last year we saw, Gavin Barber around, watch out, that was Eric Thorpe just thread the needle there.
Wow.
That was a strange spot to be parked there.
Yeah, it looks like Gavin Barber was, goodness. Yeah.
Usually you don't see someone that's spun sitting at that point in the track. See if we can pick it up on another angle.
Like,
usually spun a bit earlier than there, not pretty much at the exit of the corner. Usually sitting at the apex, not the exit. It was a very, very slow spin.
Yeah, and I get the feeling Barber was just waiting for the track to clear, but I think it may have been better for him to just go to the inside as soon as he had recovered from that spin. Not quite sure, though. I'm not the one in the cockpit.
No, I'm not either, and these guys are a lot better than what I would be if I was out on track anyway. And Sam Sutton has got it down to 5 seconds between he and Purnell, 15 seconds between he and Simon Mazzomo. So that gap is starting to close last lap by 1.3 seconds. For the rest of the season, another of our favourite tracks with the LMP1 car, the HPD, the GT cars at Le Mans for the Le Mans 2.4. The Detroit GP and the Indy cars at Belle Isle. That's going to be a really, really cool race this year. Looking forward to that one. The Spa 2.4 in the GT3 cars. The Kings Royal, the 410 Wing Sprint cars at Eldora. The Michigan 400, a different race for the second NASCAR race. We had the Coke 600, or the World 600, I should say, last year. Charlotte. Going to Michigan this year, which is a really, really cool oval. One of my favourites. It's should offer some really different racing, and it'll have a really mixed up feel from what we will see at Daytona. Then I think the race that you're looking for, Milwaukee Mile, Lotus 49. I might have to find a new commentator because I reckon you're going to race this one.
We'll see, Jay. But it looks like a fantastic format, fantastic car track combo for that one. The really classic cars on iRacing, I feel, don't get as much love as they should. I mean, the Lotus 49, it's suffered quite a bit recently. There's a very tight community around it, but it tends to stay a bit out of the limelight, much like the 79 and to an extent the Camel GT cars. But I'm very appreciative of the Majors series bringing out the Lotus 49 for that one, the Tony Bittenhausen 200.
Yeah, I saw an awesome race in the Lotus 79 last year as well at Silverstone. Looking forward to seeing how the 49 goes. Around an oval as well. Then we've got the final two rounds. Round 13 will be a Bathurst 500, which was a really cool race we saw last year. That was, talk about a slow burner last year. That just went off in the last 15 minutes, didn't it, last year? And we finish it off with the Formula One cars at Brazil for the Brazilian Grand Prix at November 2. We wrap up the series. It's a really, really cool calendar, and you can be a part of it. Head to pacificmajors.com if you do want to be a part of the Major Series. Sign up now, you can register, and you can be a part of it. If you want to be out on track in 3 weeks' time for the Daytona 500, I've got a feeling that we're going to see a huge field again. We may even max out the field for that race.
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. I mean, super speedways, and stock cars, they always bring everybody out of the woodwork, don't they?
They do. It's always, I remember when we hosted a Gen 6 series and ran full-length races, we had 2 splits on a Saturday night for the Daytona 500. So fingers crossed we could do that again in a few weeks' time. To see 2 full races would be fantastic. Have a look at this pack that Sam Sutton's getting up into.
Oh.
You've got Trevor Mack just ahead, who's unable to get past a whole heap of GT3s and GTEs. Sam Sutton, Chris Purnell only separated by 2 seconds. Purnell's at the front of this group. He's got lap cars in the middle. You can see Purnell just at the front there, just up the road, as we come up to 1 hour to go in this race.
Yep, the clock is ticking at the moment. Have a look at... let's go through on those guys. This is a very interesting spot, I have to say. Those corners coming onto the oval, this section I think is the most important on the entire track because it really sets up your entire run around the oval section through the bus stop and towards the finish.
Well, not only that, if you're a little bit slow in your momentum getting out onto the oval, you find yourself braking too early for the bus stop and you're too slow through the bus stop, which then means you're too slow out of the bus stop and loses you so much time that one corner sets up the entire second half of the lap.
Yeah, certainly does. And Sutton making his way out of the bus stop very nicely there. Tell you what, his pace has been something to behold. He's had a couple of 42s since he came out of the pits, but the vast majority have been in the mid to high 41s. Meanwhile, Simon Mazzomo in the lead. He's just done a 42.215. He has not dipped below a 1 minute 42.
That's his fastest lap he's done since he's pitted. That last lap there, Mazzomo, and Sutton a little bit slower then due to all of that traffic he had to get through. So, but Sutton's still closing in on Chris Purnell. It's now down to 1.5 seconds, so he will get draft this time by. As we hit, look at the clock, we're about to go into under 1 hour to go, Reese. And this is where everyone will start to click it up in new gear, start to really analyse the race and try and start to work out how to strategise from this point on.
Yep, that's exactly right. We're going to see the next round of pit stops eventuate very, very soon as fuel tanks start to run dry. The drivers will have to top it up for one final time in this race.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Jason Martin in the next 2 or 3 laps to get the spare car, get a fresh set of tyres, fill her up and get it home. You might lose a little bit of track position for now, but it could be the only way that he can get some advantage back on Dane Burns and Dutnak with him having that damage at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. So keep an eye on Jason Martin in this final hour of the race.
Sam Sutton closing.
Yes, indeed. Purnell up in front. 42.7 on his last lap. He's got a nice draft there from the GT3 of Gary LaViolette. But once again, Sutton the one with the overall pace. Should expect them to come together in the next, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 laps if things go all right.
Could be the end of this lap, depending on how this traffic affects Purnell. He got held up a little bit through turn 1, and you can see, have a look at, love this shot with the rear vision camera. See the lights start to slowly get closer as Sam Sutton works his way through. It's now down to 1.5 seconds and closing very, very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And Sutton is going to have a very nice draft on this backstretch if he stays behind. But at the moment, it's looking like he won't. Violet getting on the brakes a bit early. Sutton goes through.
I mean, is Sutton close enough to get draft on Purnell here?
No way.
1.5? It'd be pretty close, won't he?
Yeah, I suppose so. It's not really until you get into the realm of 1.2, 1.1 seconds that you start to get even the slightest hint of a draft.
Well, he might be able to get it after the bus stop because he's looked really, really strong through the bus stop chicane. Yeah, you're right, he's not getting any advantages. Our leader in our prototype field into the pits, Daniel Benefield in to make his second last stop on lap number 52 of this race. 36 laps of racing still to go, according to the predictometer. There's still a fair bit of racing left to go in this one.
Yes, indeed. 1 hour. I mean, we've done enough endurance races now, Jay, that an hour just seems like a flash in the pan to us, but it does involve quite a lot of racing mileage being covered.
100%. The last hour of the race too go by really, really quick for two reasons. One, you can see the finish line ahead, but the intensity of the racing, the psychological thing of seeing there being a 0 at the front of the hour marker to go, you look at the time left and you're into the final hour, something ticks in a driver's brain. It's obviously something subconscious where everything just goes up an extra level. Even if you're driving at a 10 already, you're pushing it to an 11, and that's where we start to see some really interesting incidents. Those drivers that are already at a 10 before the 1 hour to go, they get to 1 hour to go and they go to an 11 or 12 and it's way out of control.
Yeah, that's it. And that's one of the things that you got to think about as a driver in these longer races is pacing yourself. Just metering out your aggression over the course of a race. If you burn out too early, then you're just a sitting duck for everyone else, and you'll put your own race into jeopardy. If you decide to burn a bit too slowly and go hell for leather at the end, but you haven't done enough in the first part of the race to get to where you need to be, well then really that's almost no better. But if you manage to deal the aggression out nice and smoothly over the course of the entire race, you will certainly be able to get a good run at the end.
Whoa.
And I am wondering,
Who was that just went straight ahead at the bus stop? Sam Arcar.
Goodness.
Is that Craig Jones? He had the car of both Robert Northway and Daniel Benefield. Benefield's come out behind Robert Northway and getting held up a little bit, losing a bit of pace. But have a look at this for Craig Jones. That was a scary moment for him as he threaded the needle between our second and third place car, our effective race leader, and our current second place car in the outright class, the DP class.
yeah, indeed. Coming down the back stretch towards the bus stop. Goodness me, yeah. Just on the brakes a little bit too late, locking it up, sliding his way across the tarmac. But good on Craig Jones for being able to recover that. He's obviously got a lot of experience recovering cars, being the regular V8 driver he is.
That's all you ever do in a V8 is recover a car from something because it's so out of control. As Purnell runs
the moment
wide,
you get out of the pits. Oh goodness.
as soon as you take that pit lane limiter off, you're out of control.
Yeah, it's just making sure you don't crash is is priority number one. But this battle really heating up now. We got a hard charging Sam Sutton versus a maintaining Chris Purnell. And just in front of them, we have our GT3 leader, Dwayne Burns.
We do, and you can see, have a look at how close Sam Sutton is. Those lights are very, very bright in that rear vision camera. No rear vision mirror inside the car in these Ferraris.
Oh,
rear camera! Sutton gets
that
through.
lost Sutton some momentum.
He did, and Benefield side by side here. The GTE as he tries to get through. Cameron Dance in the pits. But Benefield's being held up quite a lot here by Robert Northway, and Northway's entitled to not give up this position easily.
Yeah, that's for sure. Benefield, of course, with a fresher car now, no damage on the front, but he's obviously having troubles, and Northway going straight for the pits there, so Benefield will definitely be frustrated with that.
And still sitting in the pits is Cameron Dance, so he's giving back the lead. To go back to Sutton versus Purnell, it is under a second again, so that time that was lost by Sam Sutton.
Oh, this will help Sutton here.
Oh, he's going to get through.
Oh, look out,
guys.
Contact. So close. All three classes coming together, and it's all about that opportunistic move. Sutton not quite able to make it work that time round, but you can see he's got a lot of pace here on the infield. Just trying to measure out his braking input so he doesn't smash into the back of Purnell. It would be smart of Sutton here to wait until the straight. Here they go. Staying well in the draft of Purnell is Mr. Sutton. What a great shot, looking at the banking on the oval. Gorgeous camera angle right there. Sutton now well and truly in the draft. Is he going to be able to catch up before the bus stop? No, definitely not. In fact, I dare say he did a bit of lifting coasting there.
I think you're right. I think he's saving a dash of fuel for this next round of pit stops. Knows that he will not take tyres at the next stop, so possibly even saving a little bit of tyres, knowing that Mazomo will likely take tyres. If he doesn't take tyres at the next stop, he's going to be hurting for that final 20-30 minute dash. But this is going to be a really interesting fight as we see the gap third to first, now 12 seconds.
It's indeed. Sutton with the big draft here. They're going to contend with the GT3 car coming through the opening section.
Oh, look out!
Purnell yielding.
And also Benefield getting involved too.
Oh my goodness, this is not good. This is incredibly awkward here. Benefield gonna come through on Sutton. Benefield's stuck, he's boxed in. He's not going to be able to get through on these guys easily. Sutton's sticking on the inside, and they're continuing to go side by side. It's a repeat of last lap, but now there's a DP behind them. Purnell moving over. Benefield's going to go through, but he's got a GT3 now that he has to contend with. Firing it up the inside of the second horseshoe. Can Purnell follow him through? Can Sutton? Yes. So
that was a lot cleaner than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to see cars in the fence. Well done to everyone there.
Stressful times for Ryan Ducati McCarthy in that Audi. He wouldn't have known what had hit him there.
Well, he would have just been holding on for dear life. Wouldn't have known what to do, where to go, or which direction to look. And just behind these guys, have a look at this battle. This is for position as well. James Foster's under pressure. He's lost a lot of ground since he was passed by Sam Sutton. He's dropped 23 seconds on Sutton since Sutton got through. Was that only 20-25 minutes ago?
Goodness. That's a shame there for Foster. He's facing a lot of pressure now from Arturo Amaro. Last lap from him was a 42.6 with a 43.2 from Foster. So these guys are going to come together very shortly as well.
Yep, these guys will be battling for this 5th position and 4th position in the next little moment. But side by side, here we go. And also got a lap car involved here. Sutton's going to get held up again. Oh, look out. This is dangerous. This is messy. Oh, Sutton almost into the back of the CMR car there. Is that Craig Jones getting out of the way? But this is a great fight between Purnell. Remember, Purnell's on old tyres. He's on nearly 1.5-hour-old tyres. Or over 1.5-hour-old tyres. Sutton on fresh tyres, essentially, in comparison. This is great.
What a fight this is. This is fantastic. And I'm noticing every lap, Chris Purnell, he starts moving up the track at around the point they cross the start-finish line. Sutton needs to be careful of that because that's the preferred line. Yep, big dive into the second horseshoe, and he is going to be able to get the power down very nicely. Purnell, I don't know if he'll be able to... Oh, he's going to have a go trying to come back. Oh, trying to psych Sutton out there is Purnell. Don't think it worked.
Interesting line though that Purnell's taken. They're running really wide to get the momentum onto the oval. What that'll do is slow him down initially, but then he'll have momentum to close up. He'll have a heap more overspeed coming into the bus stop. Look at the pace advantage. He's going 10 kilometres an hour faster than Sutton right now.
Yikeroonies getting on the throttle, well, the brakes. I'm confusing the pedals.
The opposite throttle. The middle one. Throttle. The middle one.
The not throttle. There we go. I can get things right, but just getting on the brakes nice and early was Purnell there.
I knew what you were trying to say, don't worry.
Yes, of course.
If I knew, I'm sure that the viewers knew what you were trying to say.
Have a look at this. Oh, this is insane.
Oh, it's not over.
Oh my god. Look at the pace that Purnell has in a straight line. That Porsche has really got the edge of the Ferrari. And who's that in front of them going slowly? Oh no.
That's
Craig Hawkins.
Yep, number 14 car. Hawkins is a few laps down. It's 7 laps down from our overall race leader, so lets the guys through. And have a look, Cameron Dance now trying to get through. Sutton will try and make this as easy as he can for Dance, because Dance is closing in on Benefield at the moment. Last lap by, he took 2 seconds out of Benefield.
Awkward, 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 awkward. Very awkward between teammates. I think that was a bit of a miscommunication there. Sutton isn't exactly going to go wide for Dance there.
And Dance just had a massive slide coming through that corner there too. So Also seeing final pit stops start to happen in GTE. Also seeing final pit stops start to happen in GT3. This is going to mix up the field, make the racing really, really spicy.
Certainly will. We'll be able to see how the field stacks up in this final stint. As we said before, Jay, it's been a big old game of chess. We haven't quite known where all the drivers are actually aiming with their strategies. We'll be able to see that in action very, very soon. So Sam Sutton getting a tiny bit of a draft from Cameron Dance. And Purnell getting left behind.
This lap, since Sutton got ahead of Purnell, Sutton has taken 0.8 of a second out of Mazomo since he got past. That's not in the full lap. That's just only from when he went past Chris Purnell. I think we're going to see him on the tail of Mazomo in 8 laps. Let's see how long it does take. So just from the start line to here, he's already taken 0.4 of a second out. That is so much pace that these newer tyres, 24 lap old tyres versus 50 odd lap old tyres, very, very big difference.
Yes, indeed. We'll see how Mazomo can respond when he puts some fresh rubber on his Ferrari. Speaking of Mazomo, he's just in the middle of a Daytona prototype sandwich. James Robbie behind, Benefield in front.
Actually got a battle in our DP field that has just started to happen in the last little bit. Robert Northway is closing up on Eric Thorpe. This is for the final podium spot in our Daytona prototype field. And Northway looking up the inside, almost contact between he and Thorpe. This is going to be a really interesting fight between these two. These two guys both love to race and race hard.
Yeah, they do, and this is going to be a repeat of the early race for these guys. As I recall, we saw them fighting hard in the opening laps, so it's just history repeating itself for these two. And Northway behind, searching for any gap that he can possibly get.
Oh, big slide for Thorpe coming out off that section of track. It is really, really tough to get grip because it's such an oddly shaped corner. It is a full hairpin, but it's double apexed, and you can get the power on at a really early point coming out of the first part of the corner, but you get it on too early, you just get wheel spinning. We've seen a lot of drivers around. 3 wide into the bus stop chicane. Northway through Thorpe straight ahead.
Yeah, and I don't think Thorpe really had anywhere else to go there. Northway with a good opportunistic move, but unfortunately the track was not quite wide enough for the two of them there, and Eric Thorpe, I think, is not too happy with that.
No, and we're seeing Simon Mazomo in the pits to make his final stop. He'll fuel it up, get some fresh tyres, and do this final 45 minutes on fresh rubber. So what will Sam Sutton do? Will he respond now? Will he continue on with this rubber now? Will he come in and pit, get another full tank of fuel and get it home from this point? Interesting to see what he does. It'll be very, very cool to see how Sam Sutton responds here. You'd think he'll go no tyres when he does pit?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I think that would be the most sensible option. I mean, you would like to have the extra pace that fresh tyres give you, but we've got to remember that fuel and tyres are not done at the same time.
Oh, Northway, big slide, Thorpe almost into the rear. Oh, you could hear the wheels just sliding, and Thorpe's getting tripped over a GT3 there.
Yeah, you can tell Thorpe's got the fire under him now that that Northway did that move. He wants that position back for sure. Yep,
definitely does. He's been hampered on the last lap with GT3 in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and a big flash for these GT3s. Get out of our way. We're fighting for a podium here, boys. Don't be too mean to us, as Northway's going to get through. Thorpe's going to get held up again.
Yes, indeed, and that's going to be really frustrating for Eric Thorpe as we look over his shoulder here at the GTEs just up ahead. Sam Sutton's continued to stay out for one more lap, but Thorpe making his way past the traffic here, and that's Dean Moll. He's just made his way past in the Audi. Just behind them, James Foster is coming into the pits.
Good stint from Foster, just the middle phase of the stint there. He lost a little bit of ground, but he did a good job working those old tyres and maintaining the pace as well. So good little stint for him there. As you've seen James Robbie come out of the pits. He's gone one lap down, unfortunately, but won't be too long before we see Eric Thorpe back in the pits. So where this battle between he and Northway has come from, due to Thorpe not pitting. Yeah, he's on 24 lap old tyres at the moment versus Northway 6, so you would expect that Northway will start to pull away.
Yeah, definitely would think so, but Thorpe has shown that he is a very spirited driver. Have a look at how much he closes up here. Oh!
Was there contact there?
I think there might have been. Craig Hawkins obviously being the cork in the bottle there for Robert Northway. And Northway did the right thing there and just slowed down a bit, but Thorpe went barreling into the corner. Unfortunately, a slight hiss on the rear bumper. Have a look at the run that Thorpe has got here. Is this going to be a revenge move?
Sure is.
Possibly.
Straight through.
Robert North. Yeah, but Northway's managed to stay on the track.
And Northway's going to have the momentum coming out of the bus stop too, because Thorpe had to take a really bizarre shallow line, so he would have been compromised on his actual pace. We'll see if he can come back. Interesting too that Jason Martin has made that final pit stop, done a very, very long stop, so taken tyres, fresh car, back out there. It'll be great to see what his pace is once he gets back up to speed, going against Dane Birds when he comes in for his final stop in the next few laps.
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
and
Northway.
Oof. Yeah, Northway almost getting Brett Gerards into the back of him, but managed to stay nice and clean through that section. Yeah, they are pushing hard in these cars, and the Daytona prototype, as I touched on before, it's got this weird sort of midway mechanically between prototype and GT. It's got a lot of downforce, but the way that the mechanical grip works, you need to be really careful with this thing.
Yep, it's a bizarre hybrid, isn't it? It's a real not much of one and not much of the other type car, isn't it? It's little bits of all different sorts of things, and hybrid and prototype are pretty much the perfect words for them, because they're just bits of everything and bits of nothing at the same time. But an amazing bit of kit, and really, really fast, and offers some really cool racing. Disappointing to see how many we had enter this race with 9 starters. 9 starters still a decent field for this series, but would have loved to have had a 15, 16 car field in the prototype field. Would have been pretty cool to see.
Yeah, certainly would have, but I think the GTE and GT3 drivers would have been throwing their hands up in frustration if there were that many Daytona prototypes in the field. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, yes, but they're already throwing their hands up in frustration with the pace difference between the two GT classes. There's really nothing separating the pace. Just looking at the fastest lap of our drivers in the different classes, there's 1.2 seconds between the fastest lap in GTE and the fastest lap in GT3. It's nothing.
Yeah, not much of a difference at all. Nah, especially around a track like this. There's, 5.7 Ks of tarmac here. 1 minute and 42 seconds if you want to be on pace in the GTEs. So yeah, there's really not much difference at all.
Into our final 40 minutes of racing. We are 1 hour and 44 minutes into this 2 hour and 24 minute race. Wondering why it's 2 hours and 24 minutes. 2.4 hours. It's 144 minutes.
Yep, exactly 1/10 of 24 hours. So if you're going to be competing in the iRacing Daytona 24 later on tonight,
good luck.
Yeah, very good luck to you. And basically what you'll be looking forward to is 10 of these.
You're going around and having a little drive tonight, Reese? Be out on track?
Indeed I am. Oh, some problems for Shane Bowen in the middle of this run of traffic. He hasn't had a good time with the likes of Gerards and Float and Skurlock. Ended up getting a little bit frustrated there.
Oh, sorry, Thorpe. Big dive coming into the pits and makes it in safely in the end, but that was a very, very late lunge for the pit box. Craig Hawkins, they got past as well. So that's ended that battle that we were watching. Sam Sutton continuing on. Simon Mazzomo not able to use these fresh tyres. Disadvantage! Oh, that was close.
Very awkward in the bus stop with those two GT3s ahead of him. Mazzomo actually locked up slightly. This is the kind of stuff that he is not wanting to get himself involved in. Now that he's got those fresh tires on his car, he wants clean air. He wants to be able to put in those quick lap times and keep Sutton at bay. But if stuff like that keeps happening to him, he's in real big trouble here.
He's got 3 seconds to the next car ahead, which is Sherlock. Skurlock, I should say. It's Illusion Motorsports driver, and he's at the front of this big gaggle of cars.
Means so many cars in front. That's the dog bear machine of Lalonde that Mizomo's just gotten by, and Lalonde right in the thick of it here. It's Daytona prototypes and GTEs, GT3s everywhere in this section of track. Very awkward for Mizomo, I can imagine.
Not only that, we've got the different classes of cars. We've got Mercedes, we've got an Audi, we've got a Ferrari and a Porsche and a DP all in that pack together. And I think there's a Ford in there somewhere too.
Yeah, there definitely is. Clote is running that Ford. So Eric Thorpe's managed to get through there behind Mizomo in his pursuit of a good finish in the DP field, and Mizomo contending here with Matt Clote. This is going to be fairly easy, I'd imagine. Clote just pulling off to the side, and oh, I don't think Mizomo was expecting Thorpe to be there. That would have been a bit of a surprise, especially with the amount of traffic that he'd been dealing with on this lap so far.
Yeah, we saw earlier that Cameron Dance had another little issue and he lost a little bit of pace. That gap stretched out to 13 seconds. It's back into 11. Last lap by Benefield at 1:39.4. Cameron Dance at 1:37.9. So that gap's hovering, swapping, chopping, changing. But Benefield does have a grasp on the lead in the DP class. GTE is really where it's at the moment. The GT3 classes stayed very, very stagnant. Not very many battles going on. The field's just sort of stretched out and they're all running their own race. But Sutton, Purnell, Mizomo, it's going to be a really interesting fight come the end of this race.
Certainly is. That's definitely where it's going to be at in terms of class finishes. Sam Sutton's just continuing to plug away there. Not going for the pits just yet.
No, not yet. I thought that little move over where it looked like he was going for draft and then at the same time might have been coming in the pits. I thought it might have been a pit stop, but going to go one more. Currently on his 31st lap in this stint. Well, he's just completed his 31st lap, about to start his 32nd lap in this stint of fuel and tyres. He did take tyres at his last stop. We're 99% sure that he will just take fuel at the next stop to try and negate the advantage that Mizomo had in that first stop with no tyre stop. But never know how this is going to play out. These are interesting little fights and amazing little battles within battles, which we love about these endurance races.
Yeah, that's it. There's just so much going on at any one time. You need to think not just about your position on track and your lines. You need to be constantly running miniature calculations in your head. You need to be constantly looking at the time remaining. Got to think, how many laps am I actually going to do? Because you are never too certain of lap count in races like this. Sometimes, you know, you start your final lap 2 seconds before the clock goes down, and you're just going for another lap. If you've made a miscalculation in your fuel, then that's everything done for you.
And the other thing too with that, if you're in the slower classes, you can get caught out and have to do 2 extra laps for what you'd expect too, because you cross the line after the clock hits 0 and then have to do another lap to finish the race. So you often can find that you may even have to do 2 extra laps from what your original calculation is in the slower classes.
Yep, so much to keep track of, and Sutton going for the pits here, braking just before that kink in the line, down to 88 kilometers an hour for the pits at Daytona International Speedway.
And Mizomo's just coming onto the oval, so he's a fair way back. Very, very long pit lane, and Sutton stopping about in the middle of it with his position on track. Our biggest mover in the field, overall position, is our second place car in GT3. Dudnak, plus 20 on his starting position. He's net outright 16th, started outright 36th. second in class now. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, certainly is. Doing very well.
Sutton away, no tyres.
Exiting the pits. Yep, no tyres indeed. So where is Mizomo in all of this? He is actually still on the oval. So
huge.
He got held up big time.
Yep. Great strategy play from the TTL guys to get that working, and the net gain for Sutton looks like it will be around about 15 seconds or so. We'll get a number very soon.
Yes, indeed. That's very unfortunate for Mizomo. And we noticed he was having traffic troubles. He's actually got
seconds.
Michael. Yes, indeed. He's actually got Michael Skurlock up ahead of him. This is for position. So Mizomo can salvage a podium place from this.
Possibly still on for a second, looking at the pace of everyone else. Purnell's the one he's got to worry about. Purnell, if he can do a small stop, he's going to have to triple stint tyres to jump Mizomo. It is possible. Risky with half an hour to go, though.
Yeah, for sure it is.
They have to do another 18 or 19 laps on these tyres, as we've got our leader in GT3 in the pit, Dane Burns, being followed in by Dudnak in second. Jason Martin has already made his stop, but those two cars had lapped the entire GT3 field. Amazing that those two guys have done that. Of course, they've done one less stop, but to be able to lap the entire field, to have two cars one full lap ahead of everyone else in a class, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, certainly is, especially considering the length of the race. You'd expect that sort of thing to happen after about 3, maybe 4 hours of racing, but for them to do it that quickly just goes to show not only their pace, but also the amount of issues that have been had throughout the GT3 field.
Yep, and we've actually, for the first time all race, started to see the GT3 and the GTE fields separate into their own groups again. We saw for such a big part of the race that we had GT3 and GTE cars all mixed in together, and we saw positions, all sorts of weird mixes. Sheesh. Skurlock, a massive lock-up into the first horseshoe now that Mizomo's through. So 22.6 seconds is the gap. 30 minutes to go. It's going to be a huge drive for Mizomo to be able to get that back. But it'll be interesting to see. Of course, Sutton on old tyres. He's on now 33 lap old tyres. Mizomo's on 8 lap old tyres that will be now just getting up to temp. With track temp now down to 20.8 degrees. The air temperature has dropped below 20 degrees Celsius for the first time in this entire race. Chris Purnell from the lead of GTE is in the pits.
Yes, indeed. So Purnell, he's been one of the most consistent runners here.
Yep. Making
his way up and staying out of trouble as well. It's been really good to see that kind of drive from someone like Purnell. Sutton is just coming out of the last turn on the oval. He'll be coming through the tri-oval now. And that's going to be fairly easy retaking of the lead for Sutton. Purnell is away, but
Purnell's going to jump Mizomo.
Yeah, he certainly is. Very good job from Purnell. Not only does he have staying out of trouble worked out, he's got the strategy worked out as well.
And he's not too far behind Sam Sutton, so although he is triple stinting tyres, they're going to be hurting a lot. He's only 2.5 seconds back. If he can get a little bit of luck in his favour to slow Sutton up, something could still be brewing here. This is not over at the front of GTE.
No, certainly not. We will keep our eyes on that. Absolutely. Mizomo now back out onto the racetrack.
Look at the gap though, second to third, 20 seconds. It's going to be really tough.
My apologies. I thought Mizomo had just come out of the pits. My apologies.
Not. Yeah, he's already done a couple of flying laps, about 9 of them.
I've still got to do my Daytona 24 steps.
You have a very big night ahead of you. Make sure you have those energy drinks ready to go throughout the night. It's going to be a long stint for you. I'll make sure I'll watch it in bed for you. How's that?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
No worries, mate.
Moral support, Jay.
No worries.
Yeah, I'll just surrogate sleeping you.
I'll be sure to send you a message when I get up in the mornings. We've got a car around. James Robbie is around at the entrance to turn 1. A strange spot to be around.
Yeah, well, that's just another one of those issues that you see with the Daytona prototype under brakes. It's very easy to lock up and lose the rear end. Robbie just going over that dip from the tri-oval banking just unsettled the car a little.
Well, I think that's the thing that's really deceptive about it. Not only do you have 2 turning inputs that you have to do under brakes, but the change in, firstly in surface, you go tarmac, concrete, tarmac, and you also have bumps at all of those joints, as well as the camber of the oval onto the flat of the actual road course. It's really deceptive and very, very tough to get right. There's so many ways that you can get that wrong. As we're watching a battle on screen, was about to be a battle on screen for 4th and 5th, but Stephen Williams has come into the pits and ended the battle before it even begun.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen.
It's okay.
Very much appreciated. Yes, of course. Williams, of course, teammates there with Chris Purnell at Illusion.
Purnell, we need to keep an eye on Purnell's gap between he and Mazzomo. The last time we looked it was 20 seconds. It's now down to 19 and dropping at a very rapid rate. Of course, Purnell is going to do this entire race on 1 solitary set of tyres.
That's pretty impressive, honestly.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he has been able to go this far without taking those tyres is quite impressive. And I mean, his current running position really speaks for itself.
When we know it is possible, we've seen it in other endurance races where you can double and triple stint tyres and go, 2 hours, but the fact that everyone around him is doing the complete opposite. He's the only driver that's been willing enough to do it. Actually, Stephen Williams might be another one that is doing it as well. His stop there was only 18 seconds, and possibly he is doing a triple stint of tyres. I think the only thing that really makes it a viable option is that the track temp is very, very cool. It does help with that sort of thing.
Yeah, it certainly does, because that's the thing that happens when the track temperature rises. The car gets a little bit more understeery. You don't have, you're putting a bit more load onto the tires, trying to keep it in check. Going to that quick replay showing Riley Curtis with a bizarre incident there coming out of turn 1. I think Night Over?
Yeah, Night Over is... Oh, have a look at that!
Oh! Whoa!
That was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Let's get another look at that. Jump on board here. This was scary. That was, when we first saw him, I thought, oh, he's just pulled over, he's given up. But he got out of the throttle to let another car through. Or is he having some sort of tech issue? Because he's easing off the throttle and then he's got his foot on the brake and just missed that tyre bundle at the pit entrance. Wow, that was close. I'll tell you what, you wouldn't have wanted to be sitting on that tyre bundle or be a flaggy in that tyre bundle there, would you? It'd be a scary little time there.
Yeah, certainly would. You'd probably have to sign a waiver or something. Oh my lord.
Wow. Zomo now down to 17 seconds and he's got a bit of draft help from a GT3 and another GTE, but he's not going to get through on both of these before the bus stop. It's going to lose him a little bit of time, a little bit of momentum. But gaps, all very stable right now. There's not too much going on out on track. Everyone has come in and made their second stop. Some of the guys in the DP class have made their third. Most of the guys still have to make one more stop in our DP class. Only 6 of our 9 DPs still running in this race. Still 40 of our 46 cars out on track. Amazing.
That's a really good retention rate, yep. I have to say. 2
of our GT3s, 3 of our DPs, and only 1 of our GTEs. That being the pole sitter, Corey Ott.
Yes, indeed. That is a shame about Ott. Just the fact that, these races can be very cruel, of course, to Noack as well. We've got to remember, though, it is only the first race of the season, and it is a very long season. So,
yep,
you have plenty of chances to try and make good on your potential.
Yep, of course, the Mario Andretti Trophy up for grabs. Josh Noack won last season. You see a couple of photos on Facebook. We see sitting very, very proudly in his house. Northway into the pits for his final stop. And really cool trophy, really cool prize, and a really cool series. Very, very fitting. As we've got Skurlock around at turn 1. That was a really bizarre angle. He was facing the wrong way at the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, that's... it looks to me like just a very slight lock-up of the rears going through the compression. Again, a very easy thing to do. A little bit of over-rotation and around he went.
And that's one of those spins that happen in slow motion. You know it's coming and you just can't do anything about it. You're trying to do everything you can to stop the spin and stop the slide and negate the disadvantage you're going to have of slowing and spinning. But it just happens, and around he goes. He's now going to feel a little bit of pressure from behind from Alexander Sheridan. Sheridan's had an eventful race at the start. Been very quiet in the second half of this race. Now starting to come in. I must say this GTE field has absolutely put on a show for us.
Yeah, certainly has. I mean, it's been that way almost from the very start when we broadcasted official IMSA when the Ferrari and the Ford first came in, Jay. The GTE field there was, you know, obviously the one that everyone was going for because the cars were new at the time. But I really like how consistently good GTE racing has been on iRacing. It hasn't gone, you know, it hasn't been quite GT3 levels of popularity consistently, but the racing has always been fantastic.
And it doesn't matter what level of racing you watch, whether you're watching the absolute best of the best or the guys lower down that you consider more gentleman drivers. The racing is always really cool. The racing always looks really entertaining. The cars look so on the limit regardless of your pace out there. As we're over 2 hours in, we're into the final 21 minutes even. Jeez. You can tell it's getting towards the end here.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway.
Yes. Sam Sutton flashing his lights coming into turn 1. It's a bit of an awkward moment here for him. He's not only got Daryl Hockey to deal with, but John King making his way around the track. Sutton very unhappy with Hockey, obviously feels that he should have been let by coming into turn 1. So Hockey gives him the corner at the horseshoe, but Sutton, despite his incredible pace, despite the fact that he's got a comfortable lead at the moment, he would still very much like to have track position given to him.
Yeah, 100%. He's still probably a little more concerned about Mizomo. I mean, Mizomo is slowly closing that gap, not at a huge margin.
Of course.
It's enough to be worrying, but it's not enough for him to be stressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Sutton is well within his right as class leader to want those blue flags dealt with. I mean, in races like this, in multi-class racing, blue flags often are more advisory than anything, but that mainly comes into effect when you're overtaking class to class. When you're overtaking within the class that you're in, the blue flags mean a little bit more.
Just seeing Sam Sutton have a few tech issues. You don't want to have that with this point of the race when you got the lead. It's always scary when you have tech issues in the final portion of these endurance races, whether they're solo or team endurance races. We saw last night in the AOSC race that a few teams that were doing very, very well had tech issues. One of our contending teams, Trick Sim Sports, had pedal issues. We had other drivers with internet issues. There was all sorts of weird, bizarre issues going on out on track. So never like to see them in these longer races. You don't like to see them in any races, but in the longer races, you don't like to see them at all. Drivers that we've seen have different issues throughout the race. Michael Skurlock, Alexander Sheridan, nose to tail right now. We've got a battle to watch finally.
We certainly have. This is quite interesting, and they are coming out onto the oval right now. The thing that we have seen is that the Porsches tend to be a bit better than the Ferraris on the oval section of the track, but Ferraris really coming back at the Porsches in that infield section. Skurlock has managed to hold off Sheridan for now, but Sheridan, you can see he is within draft range. He's got a little bit of a run, not taking as much of a wide exit into the bus stop, wide entry. Get your words right, Reese. But it doesn't seem to be taking too much track through that section, hurting him coming onto the tri-oval.
It's just really smooth, isn't he? Just looking like he's got this under control. He knows that he probably isn't going to get any more spots than this one ahead, so he's just going to time where he's going to do it, where he's going to make this move now that he's closed up. But we've seen closing throughout this race has been really easy, but passing hasn't been anywhere near as easy as I would have expected for these guys that have a lot more speed. It's amazing how much these cars are able to defend or even get their positions back when they're passed. We haven't seen a lot of really easy passes and drivers just blitzing away at the immediate moment they get through. Absolutely,
and I think that ties into what I said earlier about Daytona being an easy-looking track on paper, but being very different in actual practice, as Skurlock and Sheridan making their way once again past Craig Hawkins, who has not had a particularly good night, down in 40th position overall there.
But thumbs up to him for continuing on, though. We love guys that keep going. That is our favourite thing about these races, guys that continue and push on even though they're laps and laps down.
That's it. And at the end of the day, you're still able to be classified. You're still able to get points.
Yep. You still get more points than the guy that doesn't finish.
Yep, that's exactly right. So that's probably going to pay off for Mr. Hawkins later on in the season. But back to what I was saying just a couple of seconds ago. These braking zones at Daytona, they're very bumpy. They got lots of undulations. It's more difficult than it seems to actually put an out-braking maneuver on someone in the same class. You might think you'd have an easy time of it in the horseshoes. They're really the only, what could really be called hairpins on the track. But yeah, those braking zones, way too bumpy to make it easy for these guys.
Well, turn 1 looks like it'd be the easiest spot on paper to make a pass. It's such a big, long braking zone. But yeah, as you said, it's so rough and you've got so many different turning points. There's no braking point that is absolutely perfect because you get it different every lap and it's still the same pace. It's such a weird circuit. And I think that's why it has such great endurance racing. We've seen some really, really cool sprint races in different iRacing series, but the endurance races always are incredibly tight, incredibly fun, and usually come down to the last stint, which we're seeing again. It's just ahead of Sherlock. There's a car spinning.
Ouch. That's unfortunate.
Is that Daniel Aitchison possibly
No,
spinning
it was
there?
Ducatier McCarthy.
Okay.
Unfortunate for him in the Audi. He has not had a good night himself either, carrying quite a bit of damage on the front of that number 9, 10.
Yeah, that front of that car does not look overly healthy, does it?
No, certainly not. But I think what we've seen over the last couple of laps with the battle between Skurlock and Sheridan is the fact that at Daytona, none of the corners really have a preferred line through them. A lot of tracks that you see, you have one line that works, and the rest are just wastes of time trying to perfect it. At tracks like Le Mans, for example, you see the line through the Porsche curves. You see everyone taking the exact same line through there, and if you're even a slight bit offline, you're basically done for that section. But at Daytona, you can run either side of the track through most of these turns and still come off with the same delta as your rivals.
Yep, that's exactly right. And, there's no one corner, or maybe one corner of the track that there's really one real line, and that's through the bus stop. Through the first portion of the bus stop, but through the second part there's two lines as well. You can run it really differently. See the guys that really do it aggressively, if they get it right, they will end up pretty much getting a huge advantage, as we just see our leader in for his final stop. Daniel Benefield away, making his third and final stop in this race. Cameron Dancing, only car that we believe is yet to pit in this race, currently in the lead. Going to be tough for him to make another, what's that, 8.5 laps on this tank of fuel. He's not going to make 31 laps on a tank, so he will have to come in and splash. Also seeing something's happened to Adam McLeod. We'll see if we can pick up a replay. Work out what's happened to McLeod, because he has towed back to the pit lane. If we can pick up what's happened to McLeod, I think he's... Oh, this is heavy hit in the wall.
Oh, goodness me. And that happened on his own to start off with, coming through the kink. Just a bit of an overcorrection right across the grass, across the apex.
I think he's had a tech failure. Yeah, he's had a hardware failure, because that's just kept turning. The wheel has just stayed in that same direction. He's finally got it going and realised that the car is no good. Watch the wheel.
Yeah, and it just seems to me like the brake pedal kind of refused to work there as well.
Tell you what, lucky he didn't roll it there. That would have given him a little bit of a headache. But as we come back live, we're going to go back to that battle between Sheridan and Skurlock, because it did sort of stretch out a little bit. Sheridan's now been able to get the draft back again. Now, back in draft range within a second. It's on again.
Yes, indeed. And now that they are past probably the worst of that traffic, they'll definitely be able to get up close and personal with each other once again. The only slower class car in front of them is Drew Lalonde. And given how clean Lalonde's car is, I suspect that there isn't going to be too much trouble with him. I'm actually impressed with how clean Lalonde has managed to be. He's taken advantage of quite a few of the attrition, quite a bit of the attrition, I should probably say.
I knew what you were meaning.
Yeah, look, you know what I'm saying, but I know that I made a mistake. So that kind of takes priority within my mind. But good on you, Drew Lalonde, for staying out there and chipping away at those positions, running 12th in class after starting 45th overall. Yes, of course.
He's about to get the spot of Adam McLeod, so he'll get another spot and up into 11th in class, which the way that the class is going, you could find himself into 10th in class by the end of this, because it's not over. A little bit of lapses of concentration happening as Alexander Sheridan, Michael Skurlock, they're getting very, very close right now.
Indeed they are. Sheridan right in the draft now as they come across the start-finish line, starting at their 77th laps here. Look at how much he gathers up in the braking zone as well. You can see him there in Skurlock's rearview camera, right on the back. Of course, the GTE cars, well, GTLM if we're talking IMSA spec, they, I'm actually quite interested to see. That's a nice zoom there, Jay. I like that. That's great.
A little bit too tight there. I was giving me a bit of a headache looking at that.
Just thinking, just creeping up. But they both make their way past Lalonde there.
Yeah, that is a pretty cool shot. Oh, look at how quickly he closed up the gap there.
Yeah, that's very impressive from Sheridan. But I am actually perplexed because I do know that the GTE headlights were changed from yellow to white in real life, and so iRacing reflected that as well. But why was that? Why did that happen?
I don't know, and I don't like it. I think it was much, much cooler when they were the beautiful yellow lights. You could tell the class is a lot easier. The difference between classes is a lot easier with the different colour headlights. I mean, they're both yellow lights, white lights usually give out the same amount of light for on a racetrack anyway. They both make it about the same ease of distance to see. So I don't know why they changed it. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame, but that's the way it goes. Reminder, it did happen in real life, and so iRacing perfectly justified in implementing that themselves.
Had a question about what's going on in the lead of GTE. Well, honestly, not much. Sam Sutton's pulling away from the rest of the guys in this class. Purnell holding position and lapping pretty consistently in regards to pace with Mazomo. The gap has come down, but it has not come down anywhere near enough for us to be concerned about whether he will be closing in. The only issue will be is if Sutton and Purnell have undercut or underfilled their car. You would think that they would have got this calculation right. They have underfueled. We will see a bit of a battle in the last 2 or 3 laps, but at the moment, Sutton and Purnell look pretty stable, first and second, with Mazomo trying to hunt these guys down in third, but not quite able to make as much of an inroad as he would like.
Yeah, and that's the way things stand. The lead of GTE with under 9 minutes to go. I went through like 3 or 4 different numbers in my head before I settled on the correct one.
You math good tonight. You math good.
I certainly mathematic very nice. But Sutton is looking very untroubled there, which is the reason why We haven't really focused as much on the top as we have at this battle between Skurlock and Sheridan.
And we've also seen Cameron Dance come in and do a splash and dash of fuel. 7-second fuel stop, back out on track. Gap between first and second in DP is staying stable around about the 10-second mark. Sheridan's got the run here. He might finally be able to get the move done. He's been trying this for, what, 8 or 10 laps? Now finally side by side.
Very big run between these two. And Skurlock actually lifting.
Wow.
So he recognizes this. He might actually...
He's going to try and come back at the end.
Yeah.
Remember I said before, it's all about timing the run and working out when the best time to pounce is. If he can tuck in behind, draft, save the tyres, not push the tyres too hard. Of course, these guys are both out there on fairly worn tyres. They're double stinting tyres. But they can get a little bit of something special going on. You can see a bit of a change back, but it looks like Sheridan's starting to pull away very, very quickly.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. Maybe Skurlock is underfueled slightly.
Is possible. 19 seconds for his last stop, so it is possible that he has underfueled, but I don't think we're going to see anyone run out of fuel. It's my honest thinking around it.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see too much. Also, we haven't focused a huge amount on the GT3 pack, but Dane Burns leading by 5 seconds. Has stayed very stable between 4 and 6 seconds for the entire final 2 hours. It's been not much going on in GT3 at all. These guys are all racing by themselves. This is the closest battle in the entire GT3 field, and it's 5 seconds. So not much going on. DP, the closest battle is 6 seconds between Robert Northway and Eric Thorpe, and that is staying. Well, it's actually starting to close because Thorpe is a little bit quicker than Northway. Northway may be saving a little bit of fuel here. This is maybe still going on. Actually, it could be that Northway is battling with damage. Have a look at the front of that car. It's looking very, very unhealthy. As Skurlock's coming back here on Sheridan, this is not over.
No, certainly not. Ended up catching a little bit more of a draft there at the end of that lap. But talking about Northway, he's been carrying that damage for quite some time. So I think it's just a case of him making sure that he's got enough fuel to go to the end. He did have a slight bit of a run-in with Arturo Amro at the horseshoe. I was noticing.
Last lap by, I should say, he did a 141.3. Eric Thorpe a 139.2. So 2 seconds quicker was Thorpe. And on this lap, he's already pulled a second as they're coming up to the bus stop. So what have they got? 4 laps to go. Thorpe's going to be right on the tail of Northway with 1 to go. We said that these always turn into slow burners. It's definitely proving that, as you see. There goes Thorpe, just come into the shot as we flicked over to the next camera. So Thorpe is closing. Look at that, now down to 4.4 seconds. Gained half a second in the bus stop. This is not done.
It is certainly not done as Northway makes his way past our position 2 runner in GT3. Eric Thorpe actually with quite the run here.
Yep. Down to 4.2 seconds. That lap by a 38.3 for Thorpe, and Northway a 40.7. So it's looks like Northway's going to have to really defend on that last lap, maybe a lap and a half, to hold on for a podium spot here. Sheridan and Skurlock still going at it too.
Yeah, they're close. Very much so.
So these are our 2 closest battles out on track. Battle for 6th and 7th in GTE. The battle for 3rd and 4th in our DP class. Closest battle in GT3 is 5 seconds between our lead cars.
Shane Bowen just letting Skurlock and Sheridan go. And Bowen actually running down the order a bit. He is 6th in GT3 right now. These guys leaving him behind. He's been lapping on his own. GT3 has been, I think, just about the most relaxed category that we've seen in this race.
True gentleman driver category, isn't it? Sorry, Rex.
That's all good. I wasn't quite sure what you were saying there, Jay.
I was saying it's a true gentleman driver category, isn't it? They're just driving around, they're all just at their own pace, having a nice Saturday night drive.
Yes, indeed. Actually, the gentleman part of that sentence was cut off, so you just came in as driver category, and I'm like, what? Oh dear, that's not good.
Around again. He has not had much luck at that corner there. Second hairpin. What's happened to him?
Well, Hockey's had not the best race himself over these last couple of stints, so looks like it was just a matter of him losing it on his own.
Yes.
A little bit of over rotation.
Broke too late, and by the time he could pull it up, car was turning. 3 laps to go by the looks of the timing, and Skurlock is right there again. Thorpe to Northway down to 3 seconds and closing.
Oh, that's not good for Skurlock. Benefield's just going to go through on him there. So that has given a bit of a free kick to Alexander Sheridan.
Yep.
The thing was, Skurlock was right on the back of him across the start-finish line, actually side by side, but they unfortunately have been forced apart a bit. Skurlock lifted into turn 1.
Back on board with Eric Thorpe here, 2.4 seconds. And it will be 2 to go, 3 to go at the line for these guys. It'll be 2 to go for Benefield when he comes up to the line next. Actually, it'll be 1 to go. So 2 to go for these guys.
Yeah, goodness me. It's
flown by this race.
It actually has. I didn't expect that we'd be at this point.
I was just getting ready for the last stint.
Yeah, me too. Really?
Oh, big lock up for Northway.
Oh, yeah, that ain't good. That's given a bit of a free kick to Eric Thorpe. GT3 car
under
there.
2 seconds.
Getting back on the track. This is on for the final podium position in Daytona prototype. And Daniel Benefield is coming out of the last real turns on the oval. He's going to take white flag this time by. It's been a good drive from Benefield, hasn't it?
He's had a few whoopsies. He's hasn't been as smooth sailing as he would like. You can see, big sideways moment as he comes through turn 1, but it hasn't been as
Daytona prototype things.
You can see the damage on the front of the car. He has not had it anywhere near as easy as he would have liked. He would have liked a lot more of a simpler race than what he's had. He's had to battle his way through, but once he got into that lead and Dance had that issue, where they both had that issue at the same point, ever since that point he's just sort of driven away and driven his own race. So he's done a very, very good job. So Daniel Benefield at the moment, 11-second lead. Going to go back to Thorpe versus Northway, because have a look at how close these boys are now.
Yeah, and right on the exit of the bus stop as well. That's one of the places where Thorpe is going to get a very nice slingshot on Mr. Northway. Actually, he's within draft range here.
Yep.
That damage that Robert Northway is carrying is not helping him. Have a look at the run that Thorpe's getting. My goodness, that's amazing. Just blasting past him like he's a GTE car.
Amazing. Straight on by Eric Thorpe. Oh, and there's contact between them.
Oh, Northway coming off second best out of that one. Goodness me, that was a big lockup from Northway. Just, I think, the loss of downforce as he got right behind Thorpe. Oh, goodness, that's scary.
Congratulations, Daniel Benefield. He comes through NASCAR 4, Oval 4. Going to pick up the win in the first round of the Major Series.
Yep, excellent.
At Daytona. Well done to Daniel Benefield. Great drive. Dominant performance in the DP class. Sam Sutton coming through the final corner. He's going to pick up the win. Ended up 18 seconds in the end. Chris Purnell, and Purnell will hold on for second position in the GT class. But Daniel Stevens is going to try and hold on from Stephen Williams. These two guys were going at it earlier. Have a look how close these guys are.
Careful, boys.
Drag race to the line.
Oh, could this be it for Daniel Stevens? Williams has just edged ahead before the tri-oval. He's going to take victory here. Great stuff from both of those boys.
Dane Burns, well done.
Skurlock. Yeah, Wayne Burns. What a drive from him. Staying out of trouble 100% of the way. He's only got the bus stop in the last couple of turns of the oval to go. Tell you what, we've had some really good drives throughout the field. Eric Thorpe in the last stint there. Sam Sutton's middle stint of the race was just phenomenal. I think that has to be the drive of the race for me.
Yeah, I agree. That drive from Sam Sutton to get that advantage when the tyre strategies were completely different, getting out there on those fresh tyres and just blitzing away, punching in qualifying lap after qualifying lap. That was a fantastic stint. But well done to Dane Burns. Dominant drive in GT3. Going to pick up the win in the end in this class by a huge amount. Effectively a lap in the end, because he's done an extra lap from the rest of the field, so well done.
Indeed he has. Dominant performance, perhaps the most dominant out of all the classes.
Yep, definitely.
But there we go. Those are the results. Daniel Benefield taking victory. Cameron Dance in second. Eric Thorpe completing the podium in Daytona Prototype. Robert Northway, Trevor Mack, James Robbie, Jeremy Morrison, and D. Palmer, your Daytona Prototype field. Jay, I can't speak anymore, man.
Yep, Josh Nowak rounding out that field, and we go next to our GTE field. Sam Sutton, Chris Purnell, Simon Mazzomo, Amro Foster, Sheridan Skurlock, and Williams in 8th position. Then we've got Stevens, Barber, Gerardis, Clote, Jones, Aitchison, Hockey, Hopkins, Clark, Hawkins, Matheson, and Ott was out very, very early, 63 laps down. And lastly, to our GT3 field. I nearly said MX5 field, I don't know why. Burns, Dittenack, Martin, Mole, Leslie, Bowen, Douglas, King, Laviat, Ben, Lalonde, Hunter, DeCarthier, McCarthy, Fox, McLeod, Curtis, and Kukas. The entire field there. Will hopefully get some drivers in for a chat, but that was an amazing race. It's been an awesome night of racing, and if that's what we're going to get for the start of the majors, I can't wait for the rest of it.
Yeah, for sure. Once again, it's one of those races that moves very slowly. It's a very slow dance that we see through all of these classes, but when it comes to the end of the race, that's when everything starts going off, and you have these little peaks throughout the race that just keep you wanting more from this series, keeps you coming back. That's the sort of stuff that we like to see.
Yep, and we always see some really, really entertaining racing throughout the entirety of our fields in the Majors Series. And as we said, we've got an awesome schedule for the Majors Series throughout this year. So make sure you do watch us here on the iRacing Esports Network. The rest of the schedule on screen there, as we said, our next round is the Daytona 500 in 3 weeks' time, February 9, here on the iRacing Esports Network. I've got a feeling that we're going to end up with 2 splits. I think it's going to be that popular the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a driver in the interview box. It's our GT3 victor, Dwayne Burns. Welcome to the commentary box, Dwayne. Congratulations. Seemed like a fairly trouble-free race for you, but how was it from the driver's seat?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, I was on my lonesome, I guess, for most of the race. I got a bit of a gap early when we caught the GTE traffic, and I think maybe a few guys behind me caught some trouble, so I had a bit of a gap and just was able to keep it, I guess, for the whole race.
How was the interclass racing from your perspective?
From my part, it was pretty good. Most guys were pretty good. It was a little bit difficult sometimes passing the slower GTE cars, but I did hear a few incidents over the comms, so I don't think everyone had it quite as good as I did.
Yeah, for sure. But nonetheless, you do come home with the victory here by a lap over the rest of the GT3 field. So certainly a good setup for your season. But obviously, it's not going to be the same cars all season. Do you feel as well prepared for this season as you did last?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I can sort of jump in just about any car really and put in enough preparation to put in a good performance. So I feel pretty good.
Very nice. Before we let you go, Dwayne, are there any shout-outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, I guess as always, thanks to you guys for the broadcast and all the majors team for putting on these races. And thanks to Avatar Auto Racing, my team, and Shane, who was in this race with me. And hopefully we have some good success in the 24-hour tonight.
Excellent stuff. Dwayne Burns, your winner in GT3. We're going to bring in fellow podium getters in the other two classes. First off, we'll go to Cameron Dance, second place in Daytona Prototype. Cam, you were the pole sitter, but Daniel Benefield got the better of you early on, but it did seem like it was a fairly hard-fought one between you two.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate about the little incident us two had at the start of the race when we got into lap traffic. Yeah, bit of a brain fart for me, but yeah, really unfortunate. But no, good racing between me and Benefield there, so good fun. But yeah, in the end, it was just not quite enough pace. But I'll happily take a second at looking at the big picture in the end. So take what you get, pretty much.
For sure. The next round of the season, the Daytona 500, will we be seeing you in the international time slot?
Absolutely. You'll see me in the international time slot the whole season.
Of course. And just going straight from the Daytona Prototype to a NASCAR Gen 6 stock car, slight difference between the two?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from downforce prototype sort of thing to pretty much keeping your foot flat for 500 miles is a little bit different, but I don't think I'll do too bad at Daytona at the 500s, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just going to be about attrition in that race.
Before we let you go, Cam, who would you like to thank?
I'd just like to thank boys at TTL Esports as always, and our new sponsor, SimWorks, as well as Down Under Graphics and
Cameron Dance there for TTL Esports. We'll go to the Daytona Prototype and overall winner, Daniel Benefield. Now, Daniel, congratulations on your victory. Didn't seem like it was all plain sailing for you, though. We did see you carrying damage once or twice.
Yeah, I had a weird kind of accident, actually, with one of the GT3s coming out of turn 5. I'm not sure if it was a net thing or if he lost the rear of the car, but it looked like he was going to the right on the exit and then came back across the left. Sadly, I ended up tagging him and left me with a bit of front-end damage, which affected my top speed.
Well, nonetheless, you did manage to come home with the victory. So I guess this sets up a really good prediction, I guess you could say, for the rest of your majors campaign. I know it's still early in the season, but Josh Nowak retiring the reigning champion there, certainly that's going to give you a bit of a confidence boost.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, up until about 3 hours before the race, I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to race or not. So, I mean, and that's may or may not be a consistent thing throughout the season. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Got to make the race, first of all, to be able to compete in the series.
And Daniel, before we let you go, who gets it done for you?
Obviously, all the guys over at Positive Sim Racing, Justin Richardson and Jake Burden helped out quite a bit with it today. And obviously our naming rights sponsor, the University of Isabel I, and all our partners, and you guys as well, and Mike for putting it on, and you guys for broadcasting, obviously.
Sounds like we're all falling asleep here. Daniel Benefield for Pure Sim Racing there.
Positive.
No, Positive. Yes, of course. I think
I
we're all a bit. Yeah, goodness. Yeah, we're all a bit out of it here. Might we see some more energy from Sam Sutton? Welcome to the commentary box. You just come home from victory in GTE, but that middle stint from you was absolutely phenomenal. What was it like for you with those older tyres?
Well, it was surprising with putting the new tyres on for the second stint, the time I did gain, and knowing I had 26 seconds to play with roughly to Simon. just drove to that number and was surprised I got down to where I got down to. And from then it was just sort of bring the car home in that second stint. As soon as I saw that Chris had triple stinted his tyres, I figured he wouldn't be as quick. So just cruised home pretty much to the end there.
It seemed like you were having a few issues with traffic as well. How was it in terms of interclass racing for you?
It's just awkward with the GT3s, especially the Mercedes on the straight, because as soon as you pop out of the draft, they go quicker than you. So you've kind of either got to be really committed or they've got to comply with you on the straight, or otherwise you've got to wait to the infield, and it's a bit riskier in there. But traffic was pretty good tonight. Most of the cars that knew they were cooked in terms of being passed jumped out of the way, and GT3s were mostly fairly well compliant with getting out of the way.
Can we expect you for the next round at the 500?
If I can make it, I'll be there. Everything's up in the air.
Well, hopefully we do see you there, Sam Sutton. You are, of course, Cam Dance's teammate. Who gets it done for you? I'm sure we can guess.
Yeah, so Simworks Fire Designs, obviously with that very sick looking paint scheme on both our cars tonight, and Down Under Graphics as well, continuing their support from last year. And obviously the guys in the background at TTL Esports are putting a good...
Sam Sutton there for TTL Esports. And finally, we'll go to Simon Mazzomo, third place there in GTE. You ended up third in the end after starting from a very high position there. But what ended up happening to you in the middle?
Bad strategy call. I was admittedly, I was testing the setup for tonight. So my original plan was just double stint the tyres, smack the new ones on at the end. You'll have enough pace to come back regardless. But yeah, it was just the wrong call to make. Like I said, as you were saying, Sam's middle stint was just incredible, because I've got the times coming up on my screen and I'm seeing 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be hard to come back from. But yeah, I think Sam would have probably got me anyway in the end, but I think ultimately that's what cost me, was just that tyre call.
So, did you feel much under pressure from the drivers behind you guys at any point?
I think Chris was a surprise. I didn't think that he was actually going to triple stint it, and I was a bit confused when he came out about 20 seconds in front of me. So, other than that, I didn't feel a lot of pressure. Sam and I were really good at the start. I didn't see the sense in fighting so early. So Sam and I seemed to work together really well and managed to pull out a really good gap. But yeah, other than that, I think Chris was probably the surprise factor in that one.
Thoughts on the 500 coming up soon?
I've only recently started looking at oval stuff, but yeah, I think that one's going to be on the cards of at least have a crack at it, even if I'm not that good at oval.
Do it.
Yeah, I probably will. I'll probably have a crack at it.
Hey, if I can win one, anyone can win one.
Now I definitely have to do it now.
Yeah, the pressure's on now, Simon. Who gets it done for you, mate?
Big thanks to the guys at FT1 Motorsport. They've been working hard on the setups all the last 2 weeks. Our sponsors, Demon Tweaks, Fight Colorectal Cancer. Big thanks to Hybrid Racing Simulations, RMS, you guys at SimSpeed TV, Sim Racing Collectibles, and GT Leagues Australia.
Simon Mazzomo there for FT1, but racing under the SimSpeed Esports banner for this one.
Hey, we got 2 cars on the podium.
Yeah, we certainly have. It's been
Ott.
a pretty good haul for us, AJ.
Good job, Ott. I'll just say that. But no, I must say it's been an awesome night of racing, regardless of where everyone finished. The actual racing we had out on track was incredible. The strategy was so good, and what a warm-up we've got for the 24-hour for tonight.
Yeah, certain. And you will be able to catch the 24 hours of Daytona live here on the iRacing Esports Network in just a few short hours. It'll be presented by our friends at RaceSpot TV. So if you are willing to stay awake, if you are willing to power through like many sim racers around the globe tonight, then be sure to join RaceSpot for that particular undertaking. It's going to be one big undertaking indeed. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. It's certainly bringing out the potential here for this season of the majors, Jay. I'm really looking forward to future rounds.
Yeah, bring on Daytona, bring on Sebring, bring on the rest of the season. If we've had this for race 1, we know how much better the racing got throughout the season last year. I can't wait for the rest of this season. It's going to be awesome.
Yep, for sure. We hope that that you have all enjoyed that. Make sure to subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network. Subscribe to us at SimSpeed TV, and we will see you next time.